result of this massive 4-year election denialism effort to gaslight the public and manipulate appointments to board. For 4 years, people have been asking for evidence that the election was stolen, and I hear mistakes are made. I'm talking about election is stolen. The evidence is still missing. As a result, petitioners who couldn't get what they wanted from their elected officials have put this board in the spotlight. They believe they now have unprecedented power to influence you and many county boards of election on certification. I read the arguments from the recent court hearing. The argument was made that counties could certify, but maybe they could toss out specific precincts. We all know what precincts they're talking about.
Okay.
I hear petitioners say that the endless requests for changes are just common sense, and they can't imagine why people would object. The same is said for these voter challenges. If they were truly common sense and being made in good faith, perhaps we wouldn't be here. But the fact that they target specific groups, mostly people of color, really speaks to the true intent of the national election denialists who are supporting these petitioners. As I've said before, this election security issue is about beliefs versus facts, so it won't be solved by whatever number of rules you pass or investigations you conduct. Petitioners don't want secure elections. They want their candidates to win, and they will contest anything less than that. I guess I'll just have to read future history books, and I know they'll not be kind to the participants in this clear dismantling of the people's right to vote.
Thank you, Michael, for your comments. Next up, we have William Bush.
My name is William Ware Bush.
Woo.
Until recently, I owned and was the CEO of an institutional capital markets broker-dealer.
Wow, that sounds...
Our mandate was to prevent fraud in the securities markets.
Oh, really?
The goal of this state election board is the same. Free and fair elections with rules initiated to reduce the possibility of fraud.
Oh, yeah.
However, given a compromised governor, a coward attorney general, and an ideologue criminal secretary of state, the election board is bravely attempting to patch a badly flawed system.
This rapture, okay? We're done
It is
with
my
you.
sincere, deeply held belief the state of Georgia should eliminate electronic voting machines.
I'll tell you what should be eliminated.
Because the digital vote count can be easily manipulated because of flaws in the construction, security, and software of the machines. But
you're a fucking liar.
Then an illegal paper ballot has to be inserted to back up the digital manipulation.
Can't punch.
It is crucially important to prevent illegal paper ballots to be slipped easily into the vote count.
It's not. No.
Now, where do the bad guys find illegal ballots?
What are we talking about?
From voter rolls where tens of thousands of ineligible voters who are dead moved to duplicate or duplicates.
Rolled some joints.
I salute the patriots in this room who do the deep analytical work to identify voter records.
I'm sorry.
They should be cleaned from the rolls and brought the data to the attention of the county election boards. I trust the members of the various county election boards will do the right thing.
Yeah, they do, bitch.
Finally, the Georgia State Election Board members are national heroes.
I fucking hate old men.
Rick Jeffries, Janelle King, and Jan Johnson particularly. Because as goes Georgia, goes the nation.
What, really?
And as goes the nation, goes the world. Thank you.
Is that what you think is happening?
Thank you, Mr. Bush, for your comments. I appreciate that.
Is that what you think is happening?
Marissa Pyle's up next. Kathleen Hamill, Kristen Neighbors, Earl Ferguson.
I remember that.
Christine.
I remember that.
I cannot read that.
I remember
you'll
that,
have to, Christine, you'll have to say your full name when you get up, please.
Hi, board members. My name is Marissa Pyle. I am with All Voting is Local Action. We're a nonpartisan organization that works to advance accessible, fair, and good election administration. This board's actions have undermined not only voter confidence in Georgia, but the confidence of our election officials in the ability to administer elections without interference, changing rules, and the threat of reprisal. In an incredibly consequential election year, the board's actions have caused an outcry from voters and poll workers alike, one that we have all witnessed firsthand. Today marks 1 week until the start of early voting. Poll workers have been hired, they have been trained, ballots have been mailed, and to put simply, we are still here. There are still rules in the process. We are meeting about potential new investigations to be implemented or carried out in mere days or weeks. And we are listening to folks raise baseless concerns about non-existent, ineligible voters, witnessing incredibly valuable time and resources of election workers, advocates, county administrators, and poll workers be wasted as they are having to leave the preparation to be here. The board has stated that it is not trying to create confusion or chaos. Its actions state otherwise. If it was the case, then the board should have reversed course weeks ago. But in lieu of a time machine, you can just stop the actions that are creating the harm. You can stop making new rules. You can stop leading unauthorized investigations that are wholly unsupported by any statute based on bad data, misinformation, and bad actors. You can stop taking the time of county officials to prepare for these elections to perform for you. You can just stop, and you are not, even after being told of the harm you are inflicting. What does bring me hope is the very officials who have taken their time to be at these meetings in spite of their workload, to defend their voters, staff, and their policies, and to make clear that they will administer the election fairly and transparently. We are fortunate to have poll workers, managers, and election directors, as well as county board members who will hold safeguards in place to ensure our elections are fair and accurate. Voters can trust their commitment, resolve, and honorability. For that reason, far separate from the actions of this board. I leave you with one reminder. Georgia's election system will work for its voters, undeterred by those who seek to undermine or weaken our laws and procedures. It has done so in the past, it will do so now, and it will in the future.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your comments, Marissa. Next up is Kathleen Hamill.
Thank you. My name is Kathleen Hamill, and I'm here with the Georgia Democracy Task Force. I stand before you today as a Georgia voter. There are more than 7 million registered voters in the state who should understand with confidence that our election system is solid and has stood the test of time. The state election board here is trying to make us feel otherwise. We are talking about the right to vote, and we cannot buy into a false narrative. One of the issues on the agenda today is voter ineligibility and voter challenges, massive voter challenges, often using technology to sweep through records online without personal or individualized knowledge. Since 2020, we know that over 350,000 of these voter challenges have been made, and the vast majority of them have been investigated, dismissed, and found to be frivolous. This hasn't come from one person, but from many who throughout numerous precincts have investigated this huge number of claims and found no validity to them. And yet here we are today with this item on our agenda, with a mere week to go before early voting begins, and apparently interrogating the representatives of 8 election offices, even including one where there have been no claims of improper voter ineligibility. So let us now allow ourselves not to get caught up in conspiracy theory-driven notions that are not fact-based, which is exactly why the overwhelming majority of the voter challenges have not succeeded across the state. We know that registered voters must provide ID when they do vote. These challenges, in many cases, again, should be questioned. And what this board, again, and every citizen in the state of Georgia needs to do is to focus on getting out the vote, letting our election system and its dedicated election workers do their jobs without increasing administrative or financial burdens on those workers. And my last thought is, please listen to these workers, the experts and the professionals. Please stop this madness and bring election integrity to Georgia instead of breaking the system for the sake of proving that it is broken. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen, for your comments. Kristen Neighbors. You're passing. Okay, thank you. Okay, next up we have Earl Ferguson.
I think I'm going to hop over to the
you're
Michigan
passing?
trial
Thank you, sir.
that
I appreciate
also
it, Earl.
started today, another
Got
preliminary
a
hearing.
pass.
So, but I'll keep this on
Christine,
with its,
good.
they're
Shagru,
both
okay.
important.
You look like
Thank
a
you.
John Hancock signature here. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Christine Shagru. Good morning. I am a member of Chatham County and a veteran poll watcher dedicated to fair elections. I'm here to voice my concern that this board is passing rules that do not align with existing laws and are in response to issues already deemed negligible
Yeah.
or
Real
non-existent.
Jim.
With voting day 4 weeks away, our focus must be on preparing for that as well as early voting beginning in a week. Your goals should support election and poll workers and voters and not facilitate confusion and distraction that discourages voting and tragically feeds the ongoing mistrust of election
the
results.
problem is
I'll
that
repeat
is
what a
their
previous
point.
speaker, Marissa, said.
They're not
Please just stop.
doing anything
Thank you.
around actual protection of elections.
Thank you, Christine.
Hi,
I appreciate your
Lee.
comments.
Have a good
Let's
day,
see.
honey.
Let's get some more folks in
I'll
line
see you
here.
later.
Sam Carnline. Is that you, Sam?
All right, I'm going to go to
Are you
Michigan.
Sam? All right, very good. I am Sam. It sounds like a book we read.
You're so funny.
Fields, Searcy.
All right, we're going to put you a little quieter, but we'll keep your little thingies on. Hopefully everybody can read it. I doubt it, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. And then we're going to go to Michigan. We're going to go to Michigan. Yeah. Yeah. Wait. All right. I need you to get small for a second. I need you to get real small. Yeah. All right.
Did the group actually walk over to the annex?
A number of people actually did. I can't tell you who. And I can't tell you if they were all elected, because there are other people other than electors, because the room was full. And there were only 16 electors, so there had to be people other than electors going over.
Were you part of the group that walked over to the annex?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Were you aware that the walk to the annex was actually memorialized on video?
No, I was not until after all the events took place. No, I was not.
And but have you seen the video since December 14, 2020?
Yes.
Okay. And does it accurately depict some members of the group walking over to the annex?
What I saw were, it didn't show, let's just say, I'll be very precise here. It didn't show us leaving the Radisson. It didn't show us queuing up outside the Radisson and walking toward the annex. It didn't show the full period that it took. It sure didn't show the wind and how cold it was, but how many people were there. But I did see snippets of it, and that would represent the walk. Yes, it would.
And at this time, people would move to admit people's proposed exhibit 14.
No objection. No objection.
No objection.
People's 14 is admitted. I would like to publish it. I'm not sure if the bandwidth is going to allow us to play it at real time.
No, it's an issue.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was wondering if I could make those things bigger, but I can't. Sorry. The captions, rather. look, they filmed their crime. I love it. Good morning, Pep and Neil and Lee's going off to a conference. Everybody, Butterflies is here, and Jim and Peace Love. So happy you guys are here. Happy Tuesday. We're watching. Okay, so Georgia is the final commentary on the rules change, and Michigan is doing more preliminary hearings. So it's a toss-up. It's a toss-up. I'm trying to keep the screen decent. Well, it's not helping, but you know what I mean. Oh, you know what? I'll do this. Hold on. Da 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 da. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to be. Man, I just can't. I don't know how to do this. Cover my face. What the hell? Hey, gal. Oh my God, we got so much going on. It's cray cray. We got Georgia rules hearings. We got Michigan. It's an embarrassment of bitches.
I have no control over the fans though.
There's too much going on around here is what it is.
I don't have an office. My office is across the street and I don't want to go.
I hate that. I hate having to dress like a grown-up.
Now, having played Exhibit 14, Mr. Renner, are you able to tell us that that does show a portion of the group walking over to the annex?
That's accurate, yes.
Was your group actually allowed into the annex?
No,
And were you in a position to, never mind, withdrawn?
I feel like I should fill this empty space, but I won't.
Now, when watching Exhibit 14, were you able to see yourself actually walking over to the annex?
yes, I was.
Okay, and what were you wearing on December 14, 2020?
I was wearing a Woolrich, a black cap that was insulated. I was wearing a long, I remember the favorite black, the jacket, coat, winter coat. And yeah, that was it. Now it's a coat.
I'm going to show you what it has been marked as people propose Exhibit 15.
That's
And I'm just going to draw your attention to the first photo marked as A.
Yeah.
And
Tell them you're
I believe you already identified yourself in that photo.
That's correct.
Okay, and is that
Yeah,
an accurate
me.
depiction of the walk over to the Capitol Annex?
It is.
Okay. Now I'm going to direct your attention to the last photo in that set marked F, as in Frank.
Okay.
And do you see yourself in that photo as well?
Yes, I do.
And where are you standing in relation to the Capitol Annex?
I am standing at one right in front of the exit door. The door in which the state police were standing at and talking with the, I think she is a female representative. I don't know her name. Yes, that is accurate. That's what it is.
Now, you stated that the group that you walked over with was ultimately not allowed into the Capitol building. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and who denied you entrance?
I there were two that I heard. Well, apparently, the first individual that was in the picture denied entrance to the representative.
And for purposes of the record, when you say in the picture, we're referring to photo F of exhibit 15.
Okay. I did not hear that because the wind didn't go. After that, Lieutenant Green began dialogue with another individual by the name of Ian Norton, who was trying to get delivery of the packet of information. What that was, I didn't know. So Lieutenant Green would deliver that to the state senate. Okay. And there I heard it stating that it had the annex and the capital had been closed. I think Lieutenant Green stated that.
I think so, Peasley.
And the packet
we'll
that
get
you
over
said
this.
Mr. Norton was trying to tender to the trooper, did the trooper take that envelope?
No, Lieutenant Green would not take that.
And do you recall when Ian Norton joined the group that you were part of?
I could not tell you because I was walking near the front. I was walking right behind the two ladies that one of whom was attempted to deliver the information. So I could not tell when he joined the group.
Do you know if Mr. Norton was part of the non-Republican elector members who were in the basement of the Michigan GOP headquarters?
Well, the distinguishing feature of Mr. Norton at that day was a camel hair coat, a long camel hair coat. I remember correctly. Give me a time to kind of visualize it. I did not see anyone in the basement wearing a similar coat.
What happens after the group is denied access or entrance into the Capitol Annex?
By Lieutenant Green?
Yes.
Okay. After that, it becomes very apparent that the initial objective of the group was not going to be satisfied. It was not going to be information was not going to be delivered by 2 o'clock.
Okay.
So then I think Norton began to kind of back away, but then he began, there's media, here's the door. And there's media that would be to the left of the door. Okay. There's me, and there was a camera, if I remember, on the tripod to our right.
That's Sean Flynn.
Presumably for it.
That is the Sean
you
Flynn,
stick
the guy
around
we
for
never
that part?
see, who's always in the room.
Yeah.
Where
My
did you
objective
go?
was to see
I'm
if
sorry, Mr.
I'm
Renner, I
sorry.
didn't hear what you said. You said,
I'm
Ms.
gonna make
Logan
him like
asked you the
standing in the
question, did you
corner.
stick around after? I didn't hear your answer. I
okay, I
apologize.
said no.
Okay.
And my next question is, where did you go, sir?
Okay. I went to the my car, then I went to McDonald's.
I
got
think people will
coffee,
vote.
told my wife before I said it home.
Do your best.
Was there
Do
any further
60%. No,
instructions
you better hit an
after you left the Senate Annex, I mean, the Capitol Annex?
None.
I
None that
know.
received.
Sorry, Neil.
While you were at the.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. There was an invitation to go back to the hotel and have pizza and hot chocolate. That was the only thing.
Is that what they
was
call
said.
it now? Okay.
I didn't do that.
Didn't
Do you
know.
recall who extended that invitation?
I do not. No.
And I'm gonna go back a little bit. While you were at the Michigan GOP headquarters, do you recall taking a photo?
Yeah, it was I think the last thing we did before the group broke up. Yeah, it was in the base. I think it was in the base. Yes, it was in, I think it was in the base.
And do you recall if there was anyone specifically coordinating the photo or if this was just something spontaneous?
There was somebody.
Bunch of
coordinating.
nerds.
I can't
Let's go
tell you
take a
who,
photo. We just did something
Specifically because
outside
there
the
was
law. Let's go
the
take a
group was
photo.
disassembled. Okay.
What?
It may have been. That. But I can't tell you for sure.
Okay. I'm gonna hand you, sir, what has been marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 23 and ask if you recognize that document.
Myself, yes, I do.
And What is that?
That's the group picture.
Was that photo taken on December 14th, 2020?
I couldn't tell you if this is the one that's taken, because the only time I've seen it is when you presented it at an early preliminary hearing. The presumption it is, because that was the only time you could get all 16 together.
Okay. People would vote to admit
And a
people's
lot of them
proposed
never vote
exhibit
anyway,
23.
Neil.
No objection.
They say they're going to and then they don't, so.
It's 23.
It's not the numbers that I worry about. I think we're
I
going
did
to win
not.
by a
Okay.
landslide, or the Democrat ticket will win by a landslide.
Now, when,
And everybody will win.
before and after signing of
It's the
the
delay
document in the
certification that I
basement,
worry about. But there's a lot of good people putting their minds
before
around
going
this,
to the
so
meeting on
I do
December
have
14th,
confidence.
did you know how an elector was selected, or I guess deemed duly elected in
We're
the
in
state
a
of
really
Michigan?
tiny courtroom. I know
not.
it's terrible.
Before December 14th, 2020, did you know what the duties of an elector were?
I did not.
Before December 14th, 2020, did you know what policies, procedures, and laws were in place to contest an election result?
I do not. Did not. I did not.
And when you were at the meeting on December 14th, 2020, was it explained to you how an elector is deemed elected in the state of Michigan?
Not that I recall.
Were the duties of an elected elector explained?
Not that I recall.
Was there any discussion about policies, procedures, or laws set in place to challenge election results? And you were called to this meeting 1 to 2 days before, correct?
That's good.
Did you know going into that meeting
Dang it,
that you
Neil.
were
Keep trying.
going to be signing a
Guess the
certificate of
system's
vote?
working.
No.
Was it explained during that meeting that, well, strike that.
We would love to have you as a voter, Neil. Trust me.
After you went home that day, did you do anything as far as memorializing what occurred at the meeting?
Yes, I wrote a note back to Janelle describing
BK,
what the meeting
good
was.
to see you,
and the
friend.
outcome.
Long time.
I don't
How
have
you
those in
doing?
front of me, but my
Santifa.
normal custom is when it was in business or even outside. of
There you
business,
go.
if
Vote for all
someone
your
asks
kids.
me to attend a meeting for them, I will summarize what the meeting was, what the results were, and send it back to them so they're informed.
And when Ms. Leonard asked you to attend this meeting, did you think twice about saying yes?
No, because I had volunteered for a number of items before. I attended a meeting prior to that about
I know,
some
Jim.
petition because she couldn't attend.
And
taking
yeah, the federal
not,
judges who Trump
no, not
installed are problematic.
None of the people would pass the witness.
Give you just a moment, off the record. Sean Daffin. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. People of the state of Michigan versus Michonne Daffin, 21-02, sorry, 03290. Mr. Daffin, you were scheduled
that case were operating under a court order, which they violated and
Sorry, we
changed
were
the outcome
behind.
of
She
an
must have
election.
interrupted
So
with
we
another
all need
case
to
on
make
her
sure we
docket,
understand that
and,
because the only way we fix
so we'll
this
listen to these
is
guys
to
while they're on a.
really put pressure on the election superintendents. And I know I got limited
Oh, put
time. I'd like to
pressure on
spend
them?
more time, but I know you're interested. And again, I appreciate the political challenge y'all are under here. And I want to say to my friends on the left, Stacey Abrams, my former legislative colleague, characterized what was done to me here as a mafia hit. Those are her words. And to my friends on the right, this case has ongoing felony criminal activity by the Banks County election superintendent, which is the #1 Donald
Wait,
Trump
sir,
county
this
in the
isn't
whole state of
Wendy's.
Georgia.
What are we talking about?
So we all have blame. So now what can I do for y'all? Y'all are trying to get your own lawyers and your own investigators, which I really believe you need. I'm offering this publicly. You're going to get something from the Secretary of State's office associated with this case. I'm not even going to call it an investigation, but you're going to get something. I'm willing to get my team back together because we've already litigated this case. Now, it's not in the form of an investigation, but we had a lot of discovery and we've had a lot of news stories since then and a lot of discovery by Dale Russell since then. We will put together a competing investigative work product to compete with whatever you get from the Georgia Secretary of State. And in January, the legislature is going to convene and you can find an ally in the state Senate and the state House to copy these competing investigations and lay them on the desk of every member of the General Assembly and try to shame the membership of the General Assembly into giving you the investigators you need because they will see
investigate what?
a Mickey Mouse work product from the
What?
Secretary of State.
Really?
And they will see a professional work product
From
from
who?
people who, like me, spent $138,000 of my own money.
Oop.
And that is what
Well,
I can
you sound
offer
stupid.
you. I don't want to go to that trouble if y'all aren't going to use it, but we can back up what we're saying. Now, this
What
is
are
the
you
last
saying?
thing, and I don't want anybody to take
I'm gonna
this
need to
as a threat.
Run this dude back.
But we all know this
What?
case has the illegal unconstitutional sheriff in it. And I am going to deal with that in the federal courts before this ends because I've gone too far down this road to turn back.
I
So
don't know what's
we're going to
on.
do it. I think that helps you because it exposes the Secretary of State and the Attorney General for being completely,
What?
I mean, we're the worst state in America. And all these
Really?
people
That
want to
sounds
say
like a
we're not.
feeling.
I'm sorry. I was doing this in 2018. I'm
That
a
sounds like
Republican.
feeling.
This lady whose office is through this door right here told me, you get in the legislature, you're going to have to deal with issues you never thought you'd have to deal with.
Okay,
Believe
well,
me, that was prophetic.
We
But
don't.
I'm
we
offering
don't
a solution to y'all. We will build a
Really,
competing
you?
investigation report.
Yeah, it
And you
sounds
can lay it on the
okay.
desk of every member of the General
Really?
Assembly
A
and the governor of
competing-
Georgia and say, we're not doing our job. Because I've got certified evidence. It's
Really?
not Mickey
Certified?
Mouse.
I would
It's
love to
real
hear it.
stuff
What is
that's
it,
ready to
sir?
go to federal court.
Please share
I
it.
really appreciate your service.
share
I
it
realize
now.
y'all are operating in an
Share it right now.
extremely challenging
Why don't you
political
share it the
environment.
fuck right now.
You know, my case is 2018.
Open up your
That's
damn fucking
before
mouth.
November 2020.
run
I
back
want
this
everybody to
guy.
remember that. This stuff was going on before November 2020.
I got to listen to the first part of what that guy says.
First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for your service. I have been emailing you about 2018-104, which is a case that's up today. I'm not going to preach. I'd like to say a little bit to the crowd. 2018-104 is a state election board case associated with my second successful election challenge. And I want y'all to hear that because there is a transcript of the litigation associated with that case, as well as all the election superintendents involved in that
Okay,
case were
here he is.
operating under a court order,
Constitution
which
Party
they
of
violated
Georgia.
and changed the outcome of an election.
Election,
So
erection
we all need to
integrity.
make sure we understand
I got
that
an update
because
for
the only
you.
way we fix this
Hold on. Oh,
is
voter GA's
to
amicus brief.
really put pressure
course.
on the election
Of
superintendents.
course. Oh, I got.
And I know I got limited time. I'd like to spend more time, but I know you're interested. And again, I appreciate the political challenge y'all are under here. And I want to say to my friends on the left, Stacey Abrams, my former legislative colleague,
Okay.
characterized what was
All
done
right, we
to me
get it. We get
here
it.
as a
We get
The
it.
encryption keys are provided in plain text, and all users have the same password, which is hard-coded into the system and cannot be changed. Using the encryption keys, which are widely known, you've seen them on the t-shirts, a person or entity can do anything, including change vote counts, without
they
leaving
can't,
any
you
evidence
stupid
of the activity.
Cunt.
This is quite alarming.
It's not actually.
The
You're
case
just
was
dumb.
dismissed because the legislature, when authorizing the purchase of the EMS,
You're just a
required
dumb
it to be
shit.
certified by the EAC, which it was.
How about that?
But the legislature did
You're
not
dumb.
anticipate and specify
You
that
stupid
system
idiot.
updates and security issues would have to be
I hate
addressed during
these
the life of
people.
the
I'm so
system.
sick of this.
Our system got the required
God.
certification at the time of purchase, so nothing more is required of our SOS.
This is the guy
This
that was
defies
just
common
talking. The
sense
Constitution
and will
Party of
probably be
Georgia.
appealed. Nevertheless, in his testimony,
whine,
expert
whine.
witness Mr. Cotton outlined several things that could be applied between now and when the
Election
voting begins
integrity.
that would mitigate some of the system vulnerabilities without disrupting anything. One of them was a device external to the EMS that could detect any
Back on
outside
the record.
entity accessing the
Sorry,
system.
ladies.
Matter,
So
the
I
state of Michigan versus Grot, King, and Vanderwood. You can process it.
Good morning, Mr. Renner. I'm Derek Wilczynski. I
you know,
represent Stanley Rowe, one of the
It's such
defendants in this
bullshit,
case.
and I found
How are
out
you today?
firsthand
Good. You don't recognize Mr.
they will
Gross
resort
from
to
anything other
violence
than
to avoid
the
questions.
proceedings today, do you? That's correct. You haven't met him other than today?
They put hands on me to
You
stop
don't
me asking
recall him
questions.
being at the meeting on December 14th,
Think about that.
Other than the picture that was shown to me.
And I was going to get to that.
Okay,
You've seen him in the picture, correct?
that's correct.
Other than that, you don't have any independent recollection of Mr. Grote being at that meeting, correct?
Shaking my head.
You don't know when he arrived at the meeting,
I do
correct?
not.
And you don't know when he left the meeting, correct?
That's correct.
You do know that he didn't walk to the Capitol with you on December 14th, correct?
I can't make that statement because I was in the front of the group,
Okay,
but he was not within the vicinity that I would be aware of.
okay, you didn't see him on the video that was played by Ms. Logan, correct?
I really wasn't focusing on that.
Okay, we can watch it later
Okay.
if Ms. Logan's kind enough to put it up, but you
Okay.
don't recall, as we sit here today, him actually being there.
That's correct.
You seeing him here today hasn't refreshed your recollection at all to say, oh, he walked with us to the Capitol, correct?
That would be correct.
All
This
right.
is literally
Now,
what
I
this
do want to
hearing is,
take
but
you
my
back
guy wasn't
to
there, right?
the couple days prior to
my guy
December
wasn't there, right?
14th of 2020.
Right?
You
don't
indicated
recognize the
that
guy,
you
right?
received what you
Right.
think was an email
Right?
from, what was her name, Janelle
Janelle Leonard.
Leonard. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do you have a copy of that email?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a copy of that
I do
email?
not. I went back and searched and I could not find it.
Okay, do you know if Ms. Leonard retained a copy of the email?
I don't know.
Did you ask her if she retained a copy of it?
No,
You know if it was in her habit and practice to retain a copy of it?
I do not.
Now, tell me specifically what you remember being in the email. Was it multiple paragraphs, one paragraph, one line? Let's start out with that. How long was the email?
It would be very simple.
Okay, and what do you recall it saying?
Basically, would I consider filling in for a elector that could not make it to the meeting?
And that's it.
That's it.
Didn't tell you the purpose of going other than to fill in.
Not that I remember.
It didn't tell you what an elector was, did it?
Again, not that I.
All right, so you had no idea going into this meeting, other than a generalized knowledge of what an elector was, what you would be doing, correct?
That would be correct.
All right. Now, with respect to the time of the meeting, we had testimony yesterday from Troy Hudson. Do you know who Troy Hudson is?
No.
And I don't know that it matters in the long run, Mr. Leonard, but he had testified that he thought the meeting began around 9 a.m. Your testimony today is that it began at 11:45, and you seem pretty certain about it. I'm not here to argue about it, but why are you so certain that the meeting started around 11:45?
Because I had it on my calendar.
Okay. Are you able to access that
Okay.
calendar?
No.
Okay,
Okay,
Chester.
then how, when
Okay.
was the last time you looked at that calendar to confirm that it was at 11:45?
Probably months ago. And I had it on when this started up, I had a schedule of sequencing of what actually happened. Okay. And it was 11:45.
Okay, let's jump ahead. I understand. Let's jump ahead sort of to the end, and then we'll work our way through the middle. You testified that you had written a note to Ms. Leonard with a summary of what happened at this meeting.
That's good.
What do you mean by you had written a note? What is
An
it?
email note to, no,
An email summary?
correct,
A summary in the form of an email.
correct.
When did you do this?
I think it was around 4:30 when I sent it.
On December 14th.
That's correct.
You have a copy of that email?
It should be in a packet because I presented it to the Attorney General.
Okay. When did you give that packet to or that email to the Attorney General?
I don't have a specific date, but they would.
Okay.
Because
What else was in that packet? To the best of your recollection, Mr. Renner, I'm not here to quiz you.
Again, it was a sequence of the events that took place. That, from the time I was notified to the various elements of, when Agent Shock called me and that whole sequence, beginning with when Janelle called to attending the meeting, to obviously a time lapse, to the Shock contacted me and everything that transpired as a result of that.
Okay. I'm a little confused now. Let's see if we can clarify. You had written a summary to Ms. Leonard.
Of the meeting.
Of the meeting on December 14th.
That's correct.
You then wrote, it sounds like a second summary of events for the AG's office.
No, I was keeping that calendar of events because so much was going on once Agent Shock got a hold, contacted.
Okay.
There was a series of events that were taking place, and to keep that straight, I was keeping a schedule of who contacted me and for what.
Sort of
by then I was also talking with attorneys.
Okay.
That. So there was quite a time lapse between the initial contact by Janelle, my attending the meeting, and then my getting involved with contact by Shock, and then my contacting attorneys to represent me in the various meetings of that.
Okay, so you have a summary that you produced from Ms. Leonard, and then a
No,
listing.
a summary of the meeting.
Right,
of this one.
that's what I'm saying. All right, that's right. The summary we talked about, that you produced that to the AG's office. In addition to that, you produced sort of a tally of the different events that happened after the meeting. Is that what you're
That's
describing?
correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
What else did you produce to the AG's office?
I don't have that in front of me right now. I would presume that they would have all that information because my understanding of the legal process.
I understand.
They have to turn that over to you.
I agree, but what I'm trying to figure out is what you can recall turning over to them as we sit here today.
Well, I think I turned over the hard copy of the note to Janelle.
Okay.
I turned over the listing that I had, the comprehensive listing that I had. Give me a thought that I have to go back.
Sure.
Right then, I think that's about it.
Okay. Now, you had testified earlier that Ms. Burden and Ms. Rodriguez were standing and sort of directed people to sit
That's my
when the
recollection.
meeting started, correct?
That's my recollection.
All right.
That's
And
Garland
then
Favorito from Georgia.
You indicated that they both led the voting that went on to vote in the electors. I presume you meant the replacement electors, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. All right. And then you had you had testified and you had said that somebody claimed that they were the Michigan Electoral Commission. Do you recall using that term?
It was the title that they had on one of the forms, if I remember.
Okay. Which form, do you know?
What the heck is a Michigan
It was
Electoral
chairperson and
Commission?
secretary. I misspoke myself when I said president.
No, I understand that. Okay. So Is this the form that you're talking about? Let me.
Yeah, please. Yes.
Yes? Okay, and does that form at some point contain the phrase Michigan Electoral Commission?
Electoral College, I'm sorry.
Michigan Electoral College?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I understand. Okay, that's what had me confused a bit over there as well. Okay. Now, I want to know specifically who had referred to the group as the Michigan Electoral College?
I don't think anybody, I don't remember anybody referring to the group as that.
The guy in
just
the
got it off
Georgia
of the
thing
side.
is
I got
one of
it
those
off that.
people that's a
Okay,
vigilante.
and it doesn't
that
say
turns in,
Michigan Electoral College, it just says
voters
the
to be
Electoral
removed from
College,
voter
correct?
rolls in Georgia.
Let me see it again.
Sure.
Asshole. Fucking dick. He's like, oh,
Just for
people have the
purposes of
same
record, this
name.
is
And
page
da- da-
5
da-
of
da-
the
da-
It
letter.
says
da-
Chairman
da-
and Secretary of Electoral College. of
No,
Michigan.
that's not Garland on the
Right.
stand.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
What I'm getting at with this is
But that's what's
nobody
Garland in the picture
represented
that I put up.
that you were a group called the Michigan Electoral College, correct?
That's correct. Well,
It was represent, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No.
that I
No,
heard or
don't
that
say
I
it.
was aware of.
That's what I'm
I
saying,
didn't
right?
write it.
That's
And
correct.
just so we're on the same page, Mr.
I'm
Renner.
gonna live in
Okay.
denial.
Mr. Renner, I'm only expecting you to testify as to what you heard or what you
Okay.
got knowledge of. I don't want you to speculate as to anything else. Here's the reason why I'm asking that. My understanding is the Electoral College is the place where the electors go to actually cast their votes on December 14th. Is that your understanding of that?
I don't really have
That
much
little
of an
Hitler
understanding
mustache
of
that just
that.
walked
Okay.
off the podium.
Okay.
That's the guy I'm talking about.
Did anybody say anything
we gotta
inconsistent
do
with
something
that,
about
that
these
the
people,
Electoral
like,
College
just
was the
challenging people's right to
function
vote. It's
of
fucked
electors
up.
going to cast their votes?
Okay, can I rephrase that?
Go ahead.
Let me rephrase it just so I can clarify and confirm. That what you're saying is the group, did anybody represent that group as the Electoral College?
Yes.
No, not to my understanding, no.
Okay. Did anybody at all represent that group as being something other than 16 electors for the Republican Party?
Not that I heard or was aware of.
All right. Now,
So again, we were just role playing, Your Honor. It was a role play gone out of control.
did anyone at the meeting, this wasn't really clear to me, explain why you were all meeting in a formal or an informal sense?
It was to put together the slate of the second slate that would be presented to the Senate, Michigan Senate.
Okay.
And it was a slate of Republican electors.
And why would that be needed?
Because it was stated to us that the elector, that they had the option of selecting either the Democrat slate or the Republican slate.
That who had the option?
The
Michigan legislature?
well, whoever was meeting in the state Senate at the time. I don't know if that was a combined meeting of representatives, senators, or if it was more of a defined group who would make the decision. I don't know who specifically that group was.
Okay. And you've used the phrase a number of times, not just with me, but with Mr. Hogan. It was explained to us, it was told, who specifically told this to you?
I can't tell you specifically.
Okay.
And the reason is I can't remember exactly because of the structure of the meeting. I do understand, I do think that some of the discussions came from, or most of the discussions, if not all, came from either Ms. Burden or Ms. Rodriguez.
Okay. Now, you had talked about the makeup of the room. Well, actually, let me back up. You had answered the question with regard to you replacing Gerald Wall.
Correct.
As an elector. And the question was asked, was there a voice vote of only electors?
I don't got that.
For that. Who else could have been voting that day?
But there are more people in the room other than the elected.
Okay, who else was in the room?
Those individuals standing in the background. I don't know who they were because there were no introductions.
What were those individuals doing? You said standing in the background. Were they taking notes? Were they talking amongst themselves?
There was some talking amongst themselves.
All right, did you overhear anything that any of these individuals said?
No,
How many individuals were there?
I didn't count.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's try to get a range.
Approximately 10, maybe. Yeah, that would be a decent number, 8 to 10.
8 to 10. And how were they dressed? Were they in suits? Were they in jeans?
If memory serves me, most were in business attire.
Okay. You had indicated earlier that Ian, I think his last name was Northland, had a camel haired overcoat on. Did you mean camel colored?
Camel colored.
You don't know what the material was, right? So you mean like a tan color?
Oh my God, this fucking coat.
Was he wasn't in the building as far as you could recall?
I didn't see a camel hair coat in the building. That's correct.
No.
All of these people
that's
wearing
not it.
overcoats?
I couldn't tell you.
No. Sir.
Now, with respect to, I want you to
Treason
walk me
always
through the
happens
meeting
in
from
business
start to
attire
finish.
for
So the
crying out
meeting
loud. Most bad
starts
things do.
essentially with Ms. Rodriguez and Ms. Burden telling everybody to take their seats, correct?
Correct.
And then the next thing that happened, if I understand your testimony from earlier, is that there was voting to replace the 2 electors who weren't at the meeting.
That's correct.
And was there any significant discussion regarding the replacements?
No,
Okay.
not that I remember.
All right, pretty much Mr. Renner and somebody else are here to be replacements, would
Right.
like to vote. It was a voice vote, right?
Yes.
It was a
I
unanimous
am
voice vote as far as
100%
you could
flower
tell.
now. I don't know who
You
you're
never tell
talking
a
about.
Voice vote unanimous. It was a voice
Sir.
vote and they accepted it as unanimous.
You don't have any reason to think that somebody didn't vote for you.
No,
Okay, nobody said nay, right?
not that I heard.
Not that you're aware of. All right, then what happened next after the voice vote was taken and you are now an elector? What happened after that?
Okay, as I said, things started to get kind of fuzzy, okay, because of the process. Somewhere along the line, I was shown that one that said I was an official elector.
Okay, let me stop you right there.
Yeah.
When you say you were shown at some point in the meeting, you mean somebody came up to you specifically while the meeting was going on and said, here's your form? Okay,
No.
how did that happen?
I
Tell me.
can't remember, it was, I can't remember.
Yeah, maybe.
The things
Okay.
that happened, okay. So beyond that, then the discussion after the voice vote was done. Then the discussion moved over to signing the form.
Okay.
Signing the form.
And by that form, you mean the certificate of electors that you're looking at right there?
No,
Okay.
I'm talking about,
Now,
Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one.
I'm basically like
talking
reborn,
about-
like organic.
Okay, now,
okay,
let's talk about
I need
that for a
to
minute.
take some CBD.
Who
Yeah, I
led the
agree.
discussion
I
with
agree.
respect to the signing of
I
that
gotta
form?
get some CBD or something.
the best
for
of
the
my
dog.
knowledge, the best of my
'Cause he's, like,
recollection
really
was one of
old.
the ladies.
Okay,
I'm
Ms.
pretty
Burden
sure
or
he
Ms.
has
Rodriguez?
arthritis.
Yes,
All right, and how did, I know this is fuzzy for you, but I'm gonna, I have to keep probing as you come.
I understand.
We need to figure out what happened. Do you know how that was introduced? That topic?
It was as reference to that you're an authorized elector.
Okay,
And that to sign this signifying if I remember correctly, signifying that you're an elector and that you met on this day. Okay,
okay.
that would then lead into
Okay,
developing the
here's
slate
the
of
bottom
candidates.
line. These people thought they were
I
gonna
mean,
get away with
yes.
something.
The
They didn't
slate
get
of
away with
electors
anything. Some of
Okay.
them might
Be
have believed it was
presented
contingent.
to
That's
the
fine.
state
Don't put them on
Senate.
trial.
Do you think there was anything wrong
Slap
with it?
their wrist. Don't
No.
let them work on
Why not?
elections again.
Because they were an authority and they said that this was
Okay. Keep them away from elections.
legitimate.
You were following the lead of whoever
Okay.
it was that was leading the meeting at that point.
Because
That's
they
correct.
should have known
You
better.
didn't believe that there was anything nefarious
move
about
on to the
declaring.
planners.
Let's back
Give me
up for a
Ken
second.
Cheesebro.
So was
Give me
there
Ken
any
Cheesebro.
attorney that
on
gave you legal advice
whatchamacallit.
with
Oh, do you
respect
really,
to
Badger? That'd be
what you were
great.
being
I have a
asked to
bad
sign and
shoulder
why you were being asked to
in
sign.
particular.
Not to my recollection.
All right.
Like a,
Now,
what do they call
let's
a
talk about,
frozen
let's turn a
shoulder?
page earlier in that document.
This shoulder is kind of damaged by my arthritis,
We
but
talked about this
so
yesterday
my
with Jonathan
movement is
Brader
really
from
limited on
the
that.
Bureau of Elections.
That's just an
See what
old
we're looking
lady.
at there?
No,
This
I'm
one?
just kidding.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't feel like an
Now-
old lady. I mean, I do, but
According to
Yeah.
that document indicates
Hmm.
that your electors are casting 16 electoral
they
votes
weren't
for Donald
electors.
Trump for president and 16 electoral votes for Mike Pence as vice
I
president.
mean,
correct?
even if you were
That's
doing it
right.
contingently.
That document doesn't ask anybody to do anything, does it?
Oh my God.
Well, let me read it because
I
Go ahead,
can't.
Okay.
take your time.
Oh,
For purposes of the record,
What?
it's page 2 of exhibit 11.
girl, I support that. I support retirement. I would love to see that for you. People are fucked up. I don't know. Everybody needs to relax. It's too much. People are too much these days. So stupid. Fighting about the stupidest things.
correct.
Oh my Lord in
Okay.
heaven.
That document doesn't
There's so
command
much that
anybody to do anything,
happens
does it?
all around us every day. And I don't do enough
That
for,
document
like,
doesn't force
stuff.
anybody
but,
to
man,
do
there's some
anything,
people
does
out
it?
here doing shit. My God, you're wasting
right.
time.
I know you weren't here yesterday, but I'll take you back to the
Idiots.
question that I asked Mr. Brader when he testified.
Ooh,
That
the
document
new Woodward
is, for
book.
the most part,
Interesting, Max.
informational
Good
only,
morning,
isn't
dear.
it?
I'm a little mad at him. He really held back on some shit that could have helped us. All the book writers. All the writers of the books. When the Georgia thing comes back from break, we'll probably go to that, I think.
That's correct.
Okay. Now,
See what they're doing.
believe
I know.
on
it's just too
December
much. Jen, I
14th
don't
of
know how you do
2020
it. I
that you
know
were an elector, correct?
That's correct.
customer service is
Because
very
you were
challenging
voted in
these
by the
days,
other
more than
electors of
ever.
the Republican Party, granted to fill a
You
position,
need
but
some of
that's
those
why you believe you were
de-escalation
an
skills
elector,
this
correct?
Liz
That's
was
right.
talking about
All
on the
right.
space last
You
night.
weren't well versed at that point with Michigan election law, were you?
That's correct.
As
I
we
need
sit
some
here
of
today,
those.
you're still not well versed with Michigan election law, aren't you?
That's right.
All right, now, all right, as far as you knew, you all called each other electors at the meeting on December 14th, right?
If there, I don't think we went up.
I was just gonna clarify that. You didn't go up to each other and say,
No.
hi, I'm Elector Renner, right?
No. we
But-
did not do that.
But during the course of the meeting, you were referred to as electors.
That's correct.
All right, and you found nothing wrong with it, correct?
That's correct.
Now,
What?
with respect to
That's right. This is our
that
house.
document, do you
Get
know
out.
if it's, you don't know if it's a public record, do you?
This one?
Yes,
Uh,
you'd be guessing, wouldn't you?
I would be guessing yes.
All right. With the signing of that document, did you intend to deceive anybody?
Absolutely not.
Did you intend to cheat anybody?
No.
All right. Did you intend to represent yourself as something that you were not?
No.
As far as you knew, on December 14th of 2020, everything in that document was accurate, correct?
Correct.
And you had no reason to think otherwise,
That's correct.
correct? Okay. You had no intent on December 14th of 2020 to try to defraud anybody, correct?
That's correct.
All right, now, let's get back to the purpose of that document. You testified earlier that that document was to be taken to the legislature because it was explained to you that the legislature could decide, and there was a possibility that the legislature could decide that Donald Trump was the victor in Michigan, correct?
That's correct.
Right, why? In other words, was it ever explained to you why this would happen?
Not really. I think and again, this is my thought only.
Yep.
I was approaching because there was an undercurrent of fraud and a lot of controversy during that time. And that was my thought is that possibly the legislature would take that into consideration, or the combined group, or whoever they are.
What did you do for a living, Mr. Renner?
I did a lot of jobs, but I mean,
Primarily.
when I retired,
Yeah, sure.
Why couldn't
Oh,
you hold down a
well, I
job,
was-
sir? No, I'm just kidding.
I was in corporate management.
Okay. Being in corporate management, you have some level of intelligence,
What the
right?
hell
You
is
think
that?
of yourself
Not
as a pretty bright
necessarily,
guy,
sir.
don't you?
I beg to
Certain days,
differ.
Certain, right. Some days are better than others.
Yes.
All right. You follow the news?
Some of it, but some of it I don't anymore.
Back in 2020, you were following this election, right?
That's correct.
Just like the rest of us in this country, right?
That's correct.
You understood that there were lawsuits pending regarding the counting of votes in Michigan, right?
I didn't follow it that closely. There were a
Okay.
couple things that I was watching and I was very concerned with.
What were you watching and what were you concerned with?
One was the signed affidavits that were coming out of the Detroit County Center.
Oh,
Okay.
really?
Ill
Oh, I
treatment
just,
and
you know what? There's some
mistreatment of
lawyers
the-
about to
of the
lose their
Republican
licenses over that, sir. Thank you.
Counters and also the inaccuracies that were coming out as a result of.
Which
And so,
ones?
I was following that more closely than anything else because everything else.
Really?
changed
How
day to day
closely?
with hearsay. But when you sign an affidavit, a sworn affidavit,
Really?
and you put that on record,
Oh,
that got my attention.
Because that's a
Oh.
statement under penalty of perjury.
That's correct.
really?
All right.
Oh,
Was there anything else that you were concerned with other than the counting that you described in the affidavits that were produced from the ill treatment?
Well, again, that was all hearsay. I mean,
Sure.
It was the affidavits that really got me concerned.
the affidavits
Okay.
are hearsay,
And
you.
did that
big
factor
fucking idiot. Did you
into
read the affidavits?
your analysis
I
on
saw a
December
truck pull up
14th?
behind the
When
polling
you were
center.
told that we need to submit this because there's a possibility that the Michigan legislature might accept this. That was one of the bases that played into you thinking, yeah, this sounds legit to me.
It had some consideration, but yes. It had some
What else gave you consideration in addition to what we just talked about?
Well, in positions that I've held, I've been responsible for a lot. And I have relied on statistical analysis to provide basic facts.
I really want to switch to this
And
woman
when an
over here,
individual
so.
goes to bed the night of the election, and one candidate ahead by 145,000 votes. You wake up the next morning, 1,000 votes. I have never received a statistical analysis, an explanation of how that could happen.
So based on your experience working in the corporate world, sounds like you thought something was off on those numbers based on the time that you went to bed, the time that you woke up.
I could not understand how that happened.
And more than a
Oh my
month
God,
later, it
'cause you're
still hadn't been
stupid.
explained to you.
That's
Because
right.
you don't know
All
how
right.
shit
I guess
works.
the key here is go to bed like I do,
Not our
Mr. Renner, at 3 in the
problem.
morning, and the numbers came much closer.
All right,
than
we're
so.
going to the Georgia
Um,
thing. I just can't.
all
with
right,
this
now-
guy. Shut up. Shut up. We're gonna stop them.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would like to request an amendment to the agenda.
Yes, Member Johnston.
I would like to propose a state election board policy to allow complainants to speak regarding their case in cases that involve letters of instruction or violation cases.
Mm. I think
The board has operated for the last.
I think they probably do.
well, since my
Lev
time before that
indicated
time,
that Putin, he thinks
not
Putin
allowing
used Trump as a
complaints to
tool,
speak unless asked by a member of the board.
not as an ally
during
per
the-
se.
Hearing of the particular case, they can always ask to hear from the complainant. But we haven't made it a course to hear from complainants.
Although I don't know how.
The
he
reason
knows.
being that the state becomes the actual complainant when the complaint's made, and it's a state versus the respondent, not the complainant versus the respondent at that point. That's been the direction I've been given from the Attorney General's office. But the complainants are always able to speak if the board wants to hear from them during the course of listening to it. So
I would ask that we just continue that policy and allow them to speak when requested by a member of the board.
Mr. Chair, it's been the longstanding policy actually that complainants have been permitted time to speak. And it was only in the last 2 years, the policy was changed unilaterally without the vote of the board to not allow complainants to speak or be heard. I think every party in a case deserves the right to be heard. If for nothing
Yeah, but
more
in a
than to
court of
make
law,
sure that the
you don't give
complaint
them
was properly
undue
interpreted,
weight.
investigated, and
I'm
presented
confused.
on their behalf. So it's really a more
Bye,
recent
Neil.
time
Thanks for
that
stopping
the policy
in.
was changed.
Have a great day.
But prior to that, Secretary Raffensperger and Governor Kemp and on further back all allowed complainants to have time to speak regarding their cases.
She sounds like she's about to fall
Well, I
apart.
haven't discussed that with the secretary or Governor Kemp as to what their policy was. I only know what the policy was with my two predecessors and in my tenure in this position. So,
Mr. Chairman, I think it's obviously if there's a complainant here that doesn't want to speak, they don't have to, but I do think that they should be allotted, if not just 5 minutes, to share their side as well, if they wish to speak.
So what's the role of the courts then?
Griswold, do you have any comments?
I'm confused.
I analogize our procedures here to a criminal trial. That's not what this is. We are not judges, and we are not prosecutors. But in a criminal trial, a victim does not generally take part in unless they're giving a victim statement. So I analogize the complainant to victim. And the problem is many times complainants don't actually understand election law and procedure.
Thank you.
And so very often misinterpret what has happened. I have no problem at all granting the right on a case-by-case basis to complainants to speak, which we've been doing. I think using it as a policy can sometimes lead to a lot of poor information getting out, because if we're platforming a complainant and giving them the same level of audience as the respondent and as our investigators, it sometimes can skew the outlook of what's factual and what is just being asserted.
Well, as you stated, no one is on trial for a crime. So allowing those whose case is being heard to have a rebuttal or to be able to respond. I don't, if we can grant it, why not just go ahead and state that if you're a complainant, you can speak?
Dr. John, would you consider allowing the complainants, if they want to speak, then making a request prior to the board meeting? What
does the notice do, sir? What's the purpose of that
when it's being
notice?
heard, and they can make a request to Alexandra to speak, and then we would notate that and give them an opportunity to beginning to.
You're taking
That's
the
an
role of the
interesting
courts.
request. Oftentimes I find that one or the other party does not receive notification that their case is actually being presented. So it would be, they would have to rely on proper notification. Sometimes it's quite difficult.
Why are you hearing people's
for a
cases?
complainant to know what their case number is, where it is in the whole process of investigation, and when it's going to be heard or continued at the last minute. And too often I have found that there are differences in the complainant's actual complaint about a possible or alleged violation, that it's not maybe there's a misreading or a difference of interpretation of what the complainant thinks their issue is versus how the investigators proceed with the investigation. So I think it would just be altogether a better communication and understanding that indeed their complaint was properly addressed and communicated to the respondent or whatever takes place in that investigation. So, you know, I would say there will be a standing request from me to allow the complainant to speak if if the policy isn't changed. You know, Governor Kemp handled these complainants' opportunity to speak about their case very deftly, and it did not prolong the meetings at all, and both parties were heard, and there was some exchange of information that was quite valuable through reading the minutes of those past meetings. So
don't they call that
think, you know,
extra
we don't have a
judicial?
policy, actually. We don't have a set of rules
what?
for the state election board.
I don't get it.
But I think this would be
Isn't that requiring the state to
certainly a
actually
valid
show up
rule
and like
to,
present the defense or whatever
to
there
consider
is?
and to
Like, this
approve.
sounds wrong to me.
Well, I wouldn't mind
It sounds
considering it. I would just
inefficient
like
at
more time to
minimum.
think about it. I mean, it's, you made a proposal today. I wasn't aware of this prior to the meeting. And I would like to defer this until the next meeting for a decision then, so I could have time to actually consider all the implications of it. Instead of having to do it on the
Instead of
spot
being
today without
forced.
having time
That's
to
what he
properly
wanted to say.
consider it or discuss it with anybody.
So for today's meeting, since you said that the board if someone would like to speak, we can authorize them to speak.
The board member can always ask for input. Yes.
So in that case, so could we just say if there's any complaint, any individuals here that want to speak, raise your hand and we can then grant you the authority to speak?
We'd want them to be the complainant, not just any individual.
But
No,
the
that's
complainant,
Complainant
the
themselves,
complainant.
yes.
Yeah, but
Yes.
can we do that?
Yes, absolutely. But I would like more time. I would like to be able to defer this to the next meeting so I can consider it, since it was just brought up 5 minutes ago.
Well, we didn't think it was that complicated, but for today, we just have to do it case by case. So basically, as a case comes up, then we have to say, is there any complainants that want to speak? If they say yes, then we let them speak. That's what
If
we have
if a
to
member
do
of the board.
That's
wants-
it.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I have another request for an
I
amendment to the
know,
agenda.
butterflies, you're so right.
I would like a report on the monitor team, update on the monitor team regarding SEB case 2023-025 and where we stand with the monitor team.
Are you providing that update?
I was.
I mean,
I would like to ask the chair.
You've been involved the same as I have, so.
Wow, this guy's weird.
I'd like to ask a report from the chair of the status of the monitor team for Fulton County.
God, I hate these people.
Okay.
Well, if wishes were horses, that's what he wants to say.
Well, another agenda item is I would request time to discuss the recent case heard in Superior Court last week on the encryption keys to permit some discussion about this case.
Is this ongoing litigation?
I think it was dismissed, Judge McAfee, late last week.
Member Gazal?
But you don't
In the
know?
absence of having anybody, I am very concerned about having one-sided presentations. Without anybody who can actually
Be more,
speak
be
on
stronger.
behalf of the Secretary of State's office, on
Say no.
on any of these issues. I am deeply concerned of platforming one side to an issue without any notice
Fuck
we have
that.
not given the
that.
opportunity to the Secretary of State's office that this would possibly be on the agenda and to speak to the issues.
When you can't win, cheat.
Dr. Johnson, who did you want to speak on this issue?
I would like to express my concern about the encryption keys and have a discussion with the board of what we might ask for responses from the Secretary of State regarding the revelations that were disclosed in court last week.
This is simply a board discussion and no public comment associated with it? Yep.
I'll put up a link to background on that encryption keys.
Would you like this to be on the agenda for the next meeting?
Well, Member Gazal does have a point about not hearing an alternative viewpoint on that or hearing
You think?
someone else speak on it, so.
It appears to be a serious problem and we're
No, it actually doesn't.
not far from the
Stupid
beginning of
bitch.
early voting, which involves
Fuck
the
you.
machines
Fuck
that
you.
have these encryption keys or issues with the encryption keys. I would like to hear from both sides if possible and actually find out what, if anything, can be done to mitigate the risk of the voting system as far as the risk for hacking or affecting the election or affecting the election without even knowing that it's been affected. Which if both sides would like to be heard, then perhaps it should be on the agenda, which raises the next question as far as when will the next meeting be?
The executive director should send out a request for availability for a November meeting. And then we can decide when our schedules will permit that.
Considering we're talking about the monitoring team and we may be discussing that further, I'm thinking the
and
next
there's the
meeting should be
copy of
towards
his
the end of the
final
month.
order. I haven't read it yet.
before
It's only 8 pages.
the November
but
election.
Well, Chairman Cohn, Executive Director Cohn can send out a request for when everybody's available to meet. So, and we'll look at the next couple of meetings and get them scheduled.
Okay.
Considering the number of issues that are certainly bearing down and along with the beginning of early voting, I also would like to have a meeting in the next week or two to keep abreast and keep updated and also to consider what, if anything, that we might do or make available for communication, certainly to express any concerns that we have with this. So I think November is not soon enough.
I think I would oppose having a meeting in the middle of an election. This election starts in a week from now. And this board meeting in the middle of election and asking people to attend, I think is just
Stupid.
Unreasonable. And I think that we ought to allow this election to happen and then have a meeting afterwards, is my personal opinion.
Finally.
Sorry,
It's good.
bitch.
Good.
Go to Applebee's and cry about it.
I mean, I think when we send out dates, we should send out dates for before Because
No.
again, a lot of the
Why?
stuff that we're going to be talking about will directly impact the election. So if Fulton County can't have their monitoring team in place during the election,
I
then
can't stand it.
what are we going to talk about after the election?
What?
I mean, unfortunately, they've kind of forced us into this situation because they refuse to work with us.
When we have the discussion
What?
on the
I
Fulton
can't
monitoring
stand
team,
these
then we
people.
can bring up. the
Everything's a
necessity for
feeling.
meeting
Everything's like
Okay,
at that
sounds
time.
good.
how it made
I'll
me
talk about it then.
feel.
Member Gazal, any comments? Member Johnson, Executive Director will send out a request all the board members
To
on the
meet
meeting
before the
when the
election.
next meetings were to be scheduled.
Yeah, go to
And we'll
Cracker
try and
Barrel.
schedule a couple of meetings in advance or a couple of meetings forward.
Thank you,
God,
Mr.
you
Chairman.
pussy.
And when will we discuss the monitor
What a pussy.
situation?
This guy hates his job. He's like,
After
I
we hear the
thought this
cases.
was a cush job.
We're gonna hear the cases first, and then we have discussion of vice chair, and then we can talk about that next, I guess.
Oh, that's right. That's fuck your feelings. Hey, mind
Any further
truth.
questions?
Mr. Chair, would it be
From the Fuck Your
possible to
Feelings
contact the
crowd.
Secretary of State's office and see if anyone would be available to answer questions
plead their
about
case?
the encryption case?
Of course.
Encryption keys
Yep,
case?
that's right. Let's do it all again. Let's relitigate something
I'll
that has
make that
been
request.
adjudicated. Please.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? We'll move into hearing the cases. There's a number of cases to be dismissed. The board has a listing of those. The SEB 2020296, which is the second case list, has been continued at the request of Henry County. We have 9 other cases that are scheduled to be or up for dismissal to the board. Any member of the board like to pull any of those cases for individual hearing? Member Gazal, Member King?
I'm looking at this Muskogee case, the rides to the poll. But if the majority of the board thinks it should be dismissed, fine, we don't have to discuss it. I'm okay with not discussing it.
Okay.
I would like to hear that case. And I would like to hear case 2022-278 Gwinnett County. Illegal assistance to voter.
Okay, and we'll also pull 2022370. Mr. Sibley is attending today. Mr. Sibley's been here 5 times before, and Mr. Sibley would like to make a couple comments. Not yet, Mr. Sibley. We're gonna do the dismissals first, and we'll get to you. So we'll pull those 3 cases. So there's a recommendation to dismiss case SEB 2024-084 Habersham County residency issue from May 2024. Dismissal for SEB 2024-043 Richmond County voter registration applications, SEB 2022-038 Gwinnett County ballot harvesting, SEB 2022-140 Henry County problems at polling place, SEB 2022-241 McIntosh County wrong ballot, SEB 2024-037 McIntosh County poll worker issue voter privacy. All those cases have been recommended for dismissal. The board has had a chance to review them. Is there a motion to dismiss those cases?
So moved.
We have a motion to dismiss those cases. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second from Member Johnston, I believe was the first to second it. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion. All those in favor of dismissing the aforementioned cases signify by saying aye.
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 Hearing no opposition, so moved. Those cases will be dismissed by a vote of 3-0.
Where is everybody?
Chief Investigator, Gwinnett County, illegal assistance to voter 2022-278.
It's Cracker Barrel Day here at the elections board. I got the helping voters vote blues right now, and there doesn't seem to be any port. You know, like safety. All right. Okay. That was bad. I got the disenfranchising voters.
Tab number 7
blues.
in the board's book.
I got the disenfranchising voters blues. I gotta figure that out. I got the voter vigilante blues. Yes.
Okay. This case was continued from the last meeting.
Well, yeah, I'm sure I mean, I enjoy a good cheesy hash brown myself, but yeah.
Yeah. From August 6th, this investigation was reopened to follow up by request of the state election board to notify Ms. Shirley that she could not use her address for Pamela's voter registration. She could list her address as the mailing address for Pamela's absentee ballot by mail. The investigator contacted Shirley via telephone and notified her that she could not change the address of Ms. Farabie's voter registration to her home address if she does not actually reside there, because she was staying in a home. Shirley advised that she had already changed the address to hers, and also Ms. Farabee had since moved to Manor Lake in Hodgson, Georgia. Shirley advised she changed the address because she was reminded when she received an email from Manor Lake regarding voting for Ms. Pamela. The investigator checked Jarvis and that change was not reflected. However, her voter status had been updated to canceled status. Ms. Shirley made it clear that she was not trying to encourage or prevent Ms. Farabee from voting. She merely wants to prevent the possibility of her sister's absentee mail-in ballot from being voted by someone else. She expressed distrust in some of these facilities where such vulnerabilities exist in the residents they care for. Shirley advised the reason she moved her sister to a new facility, to Manor Lake, because she concerns that their last assisted living facility had changed her address, and since she was appointed guardian in February of 2008. She provided a copy of her guardianship paperwork to the investigator. In the court order, the following powers were removed from the ward, Ms. Farabee, and given to the guardian, which is Ms. Terry. It was contract marriage, make or modify or terminate other contracts, consent to medical treatment, and establish a residence or dwelling place, change domicile to revoke a revocable trust established by the ward. So according to OCGA 212217 subsection 812, if a person is a judge mentally ill and is committed to an institution for the mentally ill, such person shall not be considered to have gained a residence in the county in which the institution to which such person is committed is located. So the initial issue raised with this case was a question of whether Ms. Pam could solely vote without influence. Having a trusted address and a trusted adult, her guardian, and being the sole person responsible for handling voting documents mailings. Shirley again reiterated to the investigator that she is not trying to prevent Ms. Farabee from voting. She simply wanted to make sure that she is doing so on her own request to participate and free from the influence of a stranger or facility. No allegations or no violations found.
What do you think, Beverly?
Yes, it was only for that part. Though that was actually a new question that was arised. Like that case was completed. But the sister had made a comment that she was going to change her address, and that's what we looked at.
Is this the case that the voter, the elector, was not interviewed?
Yes, due to her TBI. According to her sister, she wouldn't remember voting or not. She not talked to her sister because she didn't want her to feel like she did anything wrong.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
She requested that the
All right,
investigator
thanks,
not
Max.
speak to the sister because she didn't want the sister to feel bad that she.
To feel bad. Okay. It's just, yeah, I do remember this from last month, and my concern about this is
How much are we paying these people
about
to hear
all
this?
of these cases I've heard over the last 2.5 years is when one has a person that's in a long-term care facility or assisted living home who is, a complaint is filed that somebody has registered for them to vote maybe, or an allegation that
Oh,
somebody
Racine,
has
Wisconsin, ma'am?
voted for them, but they haven't voted of their own free will. We never interview the voter, and I just, I don't
Because they're
understand,
generally,
sometimes it takes so long to, I
perhaps
guess, investigate
not
these cases.
interviewable.
The voter has died.
And that happens.
But it seems like it would
Oh, this
be
is so disgusting.
critical to find the voter and ask the voter their experience with what happened. And also
Okay,
to
yeah,
ask
let's do a
simple
lot of state
questions like,
resources
do they know
solving a
who they are?
problem
Do
that
they know the
doesn't
date? Do they know the time or place
exist.
or year?
Instead of helping people
Of the
access
election
voting,
that's in
let's
question.
spend money on
and
this.
Something like, does the president know
You
who the governor is? Or do they
shameful,
confirm that they
shameful
voted?
woman.
I just don't understand why we
my
don't
husband and my
go right
pastor
to the
told me.
voter in these type of cases. And I just wanted to make a point of that. Because it's curious that we oftentimes
it's
take
practical.
the word of an employee or a former employee or an unknown
They're not ballot
employee
mules at nursing
of,
homes.
for
Okay,
what the complaint is
Please.
actually about.
me a
Otherwise, I
break.
would move to, I just wanted to make that point and.
Yeah, why don't you go
Mr.
sit in
Chair, I
all the
move to
homes
dismiss this
during
case.
that time and make sure nobody does that?
Can we get an answer as to why? Just because I want to know for educational purposes, why don't we go to the voter and ask, why don't you investigate the voter?
Sometimes we do. The sister
Okay.
asked her not to,
Dumb.
and she said that she wouldn't remember whether she voted or not.
So in a case
'Cause she's in
where,
memory
let's
care.
just say, the person's being untruthful, how
Oh
do you
my
verify it?
God.
There's
You know
no, so
what?
if
Why
anyone
don't you
just says, I
fucking-
don't want you
why
to
don't you
speak
dunk
to
'em
the
like a
voter,
witch
then we
in the
just don't.
1690s.
No, well, this one, she's her caregiver.
Why don't you do
and
that?
Had more knowledge about what kind of brain injury she had suffered from.
exactly.
And she said she didn't even ask her sister. So she made an allegation that her sister
What?
possibly voted
Mm-hmm.
without even asking her sister. So it's not like the complainant, who would have been the person in the home.
So there's
didn't make an
no
allegation.
verification process
Oh
that
my
what the person is
God.
telling us is
Stop
true?
it.
Is there
Stop
no, of who, the
it.
sister?
Yeah.
No. In
Okay.
that case, no.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
We have a motion to dismiss this
These
case. Any further
cows
discussion?
coming up with
Is there a second?
bullshit.
We have a motion and a second to dismiss this case. Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor of dismissing this case signify by saying aye.
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 Any dissent? Hearing no dissent, so moved. Case dismissed 3-0. The next case on the agenda is the SEB 2022-298 Muskogee County
exists.
Rides to the Poll. It's tab number 8.
So for this case, a citizen filed a complaint during the Cobb County general election, November 8th, 2022. He alleges that Lyft was offering 50% off for rides to the polls. And his second complaint was Rideshare to Vote, which is a organization, was offering free rides to Democratic voters. So we'll deal with the first allegation.
Excuse the fuck
The
out
investigator looked at the website, and Lyft was offering a voting access program titled Lyft Up. Describing the program on their website, it offered the following services: provide access to discounted rides on election day, which is Tuesday, November 8th, 2022, across the country. Said they donated free or heavily discounted ride codes to nonprofit partners whose communities traditionally face barriers when getting to the polls. Partners include, but are not limited to, League of Women Voters, National Federation of the Blind, Warrior Scholar Project, National Council on Aging, Asian and Pacific Islander American Vote, and the NAACP. These partners will distribute ride codes directly to people in their networks whom they identify as most in need of transportation. They also work with partners like When We All Vote, vote.org, and Civic Alliance to help riders and team members register and prepare to vote. Finally, provide relevant information and guidance to drivers who earn on the Lyft platform about registering to vote on time, when, where, and how to vote during each stage of the election process. Lyft apparently does not provide the discounts directly to users. Instead, they provide discount codes or vouchers to their affiliates to give out. Nowhere on the Lyft website did it mention a specific party, appear to be partisan, or have any requirements to use the service. As it relates to allegation number 2, the citizen alleged that Rideshare to Vote was offering Democratic voters free rides to the polls. In his initial complaint, he included images of a text message which appears to support this allegation. The text message that was shared with the investigator says that Rideshare to Vote is offering free round-trip rides to the polls for Democratic voters. Learn more, and there's a link. The investigator did try to find out who received this text message. That information was not provided to the investigator. The investigator then examined the text message and clicked on the link. The link sent the user to the website. And after reviewing the website, was found that Rideshare to Vote is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to boost the number of Democratic voters by getting voters to the polls to support Democrat/progressive candidates. The investigator then contacted the representatives from Rideshare to Vote, spoke with a Sarah Kovic, who's the founder and CEO of the organization. She stated that Rideshare to Vote is a partisan organization that targets and reaches out to blue voters, Democrat and progressive voters. However, they do not turn away any voter that needs a ride to the poll. They do not ask how a voter will vote. They don't require voters to vote a certain way to qualify for a ride, nor do they check the voter registration of persons asking for a ride. The organization is only partisan in who they target when they do voter outreach. After the interview, the investigator followed up with an email requesting a written statement, and also the PowerPoint presentation that is used to train new employees and volunteers. Once he looked at that, apparently the PowerPoint instructs drivers to refrain from asking voters political questions and stresses that drivers remain politically neutral. This case is very similar to other SCB cases that we've presented before, most specifically and most recently, SCB 2021-019, which was reviewed and dismissed during the August 1st, 2023 SCB meeting.
This guy feels like, I do not want to be here. I'm sick of doing this.
Dr. Johnson?
Mr. Chair, I looked on the internet at Rideshare to Vote, and the very first page claims turning America bluer, Rideshare to Vote.
That's right. We want people who believe in democracy to be elected. That's our prerogative.
Landing page. It's the go-to Democratic full service get out the vote program.
Yeah, you do it too.
This sounds to me like it's a violation.
It is
I'm
not.
concerned that this is a
But they offer
pay-to-vote
rides to everybody.
scheme.
No, it's not.
I would be equally concerned if it was.
You're an evil woman.
Turn America red, ride to share.
Really? Would you? I doubt it.
And
I doubt that.
they get out the Republican vote.
I doubt that. I doubt you'd be concerned.
We have a statute that says you cannot pay somebody to or gift someone to register to vote or to vote. And this, although I've fully endorsed
Hi, Paulina.
giving
How are
rides
you?
to the polling place, it needs to be completely
on your own,
nonpartisan.
It is nonpartisan.
Unaffiliated.
It is not
with
affiliated.
a particular party or agenda.
Oh, man, Jim. I know. I thought they loved shit like that.
I share a similar concern
Of course you
with
do.
this, that
Of course you do. We had no doubt.
for one, with Lyft, it's different because they are charging to offer to pick someone up, drive them to the polls for free. I understand that
And?
they are encouraging the driver not to talk.
Oh, really? So you're upset
However,
that
I
the
mean, I encourage
doctors
my
or the
Uber
doctor, the
driver to be
driver's gonna
silent
talk?
every time, and they never are, because we're human beings and we talk. And so my concern is that
please.
there's no way of, well, one, there's no way of regulating that conversation, because are they educating the voter all the way to the polls? We don't know.
Stop. Really, more
Secondly,
feelings.
the fact that they're doing it for free then constitutes a gift, which
Oh my God, that
is
means you
against
got something.
our
Even though
code,
you
section
probably had to take
21-2
time off work
570.
to go vote.
So that's my concerns around
Yeah,
dismissing
okay,
it as if
sure.
nothing was done wrong.
Because I love to go vote.
I'm not sure I
I
feel
love
comfortable with
taking
that.
time out of my day to go somewhere and stand in line. I love it. I look
One
for
of the
free
things we
rides
did
for
was
that.
relied
No, I
heavily on
don't.
the previous case, that the circumstances were very, very similar. I mean, almost, identical, frankly. And so based on the precedence of that, where it was not a quid
No,
pro
it
quo, so
wouldn't.
to speak, that's one of the reasons why we lean in the direction of where we came out on this case, because of that, because of our historical. And that's not the only case. That's just the latest case that I refer to. Also, there's a 2013 case.
Sir?
We've had a number of cases, and now there have been cases that have been violations where they went beyond that because it was more of a quid pro quo. So we have had violations, but it was more
Okay.
specific to vote for this candidate and we'll give you free gas.
Yeah.
Those type of cases
That's
are the
the
ones that
thing.
have been violated before, or violations before. So that's why we
Yeah.
went with this once we did our research and looked
You
at the
stand up for
actual
that. If you're
training
gonna I don't know what
documents
he's saying.
that were provided. And in those documents, it indicated that, there's no, and I get it, we don't know what's said during those rides.
No, be confident. You
but
investigated it.
we
There was
couldn't
no
establish that link.
violation.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I know what case you're talking about, the case you mentioned about the gas cards, and I agree. I think that was wrong as well. I would say
Oh,
that
really?
in this case, I
Let me
think it's
guess, it
because
was a
on their
Republican.
website, they specifically say that they are trying to turn the state blue. So it's very obvious that this is an
No,
extremely
it's really
partisan
not.
organization.
Okay.
And
But
like
they're
Dr.
not
Jan
doing
said,
the
I
program
will
in a
feel the
partisan
exact same way
You
if
just
it
want to stop
was
people
on the
from
right.
voting. This bitch
Because
just
I
wants to
feel like
stop
that would
people from
be
voting.
effort to
Both the
influence
bitches on this
voters'
panel
decisions.
just want to stop people from voting. Period. Full
So
stop.
again, my concerns stand
Disenfranchise
corrected.
voters as
I
much
do
as
understand that
possible.
there's
Shame.
precedent because of
Shame on
previous
these women.
cases, but I
Shame on
wasn't
them.
there at that time and I may not have
People
agreed.
died for the right to vote.
But in
Fucking
this case
shame on these
here, I
bitches.
do
I'm so
think that this
done.
one is a bit concerning.
You're a
Member
bit
Gazal.
concerning.
In the case of the gas cards, this body dismissed it as not a violation when cash was handed out
Really?
to voters. And that was considered not a violation.
Oh.
If this body is going to depart from many, many years of
Turn your
saying
fucking
that
mic on.
rights to the polls are not a gift, because that has long been the position of this board, that rights to the polls do not constitute a gift. That would violate the code. Then we will need to defer this case as a violation case because the respondent has not been given notice that this is being considered as a violation case.
I mean, as I stated before, I wasn't
Shame
on
on
the board
these people.
when it came to
Shame
the
on
gas
them.
card conversation. So, but
Shame on them.
I
Shame
don't
on you,
necessarily agree with
Georgia.
that either. So I would have had the same concerns.
Shame the fuck on you.
That being said, I'm okay with deferring this and moving it to a violation case.
No, I'm not.
Dr.
What
Jones,
about
any
people?
comments?
What?
Do you have any comments?
No. No? Is there a motion?
I would move to dismiss it, so I'm not going to.
Yeah, do
I
it.
move that we
Move to
defer
dismiss.
this case just for a little further. Again, if we dismiss this, just as you said you dismissed the other one that you disagreed with, it was still dismissed. And I think, again, we're now setting a precedent that it's okay to behave
So when it was
like
the
this. It's
Republican giving
different
out
when we're
gas
talking about
cards in
Lyft and
exchange for a
Uber, because
vote,
for one,
that
they're
was
still
fine.
charging.
But this,
And
giving a
secondly,
ride to
the drivers
someone
are by
and
random
promising
selection.
nonpartisan,
It's not
and stressing that
hand-selected
with the drivers,
drivers
that's
that
not
represent a
okay.
particular
Okay, I get it.
organization that has a mission to have their voters vote in
No,
one
I think,
particular
yeah,
way.
we just
I
have him
think that
forever.
makes it a little, well, actually a lot different than using a rideshare program.
So I do want to make sure that we are sending out clear signals from this body that nonpartisan. Now, I absolutely agree that there is a strong appearance of partisanship in this. But nonpartisan rides to the polls are still acceptable.
I'm okay with nonpartisan rides.
Okay, I want to make that very clear to anybody who's listening.
Are you okay with that? Is it okay
They have
with
to be
you?
nonpartisan. They absolutely.
Are you the one that holds the
anything-
power?
Voter assistance.
Really?
Has to be nonpartisan when you're actually helping them get to the polls. If you're providing assistance to a voter because they cannot read English or are disabled, again, that has to be nonpartisan assistance. But that does not constitute a gift. It is the partisanship here that is the problem and not the rides to the polls.
So then
Correct.
who's going to
Yep,
do
absolutely.
it? Okay,
And if the majority
bitch,
of the board
who's gonna
feels that
fucking
we should
do
just
it?
go ahead and dismiss it,
Who's
I will be
gonna
willing
do
to
it?
entertain that with the ensuring that the individual knows.
I hate these
this
people.
is,
I do. I hate them.
we
I
can't do
actually
this.
hate them.
Would that be
They're laughing.
reprimanded?
Well,
They think it's so
Well, in that
fucking
case, then I guess
funny.
you made a motion that we'll have to either second or move,
Okay.
handle
Yeah, let's
first.
say, yeah.
Or you can withdraw that motion and make a new motion. So you made a
I'll leave
motion
it-
that it be
I'll leave the
deferred for
motion.
further consideration.
I'll leave it as.
Dr. Johnson? Did you want to comment?
I didn't hear what you said.
Member King has made a motion that these be continued to a future meeting, at which point we'd be able to have the respondents be able to attend and address the concerns.
I would second that. And I agree with my fellow board member Gazal that rides to the polls is a noble thing to do. It's a great community service
Oh, shut the fuck up.
action to take.
Shut
But
the
it needs
fuck
to be
up.
offered to all voters.
It
Any
is.
program
It is.
should be a program that encourages voters to get to the polls.
It is.
No matter who
It
they
is.
intend to vote for.
It
The
is.
issue there is we would like voter participation.
It is.
And
No, you
and leave
don't,
the
actually.
partisanship out of the
No, you
free
don't.
rides.
No, actually, you don't really give a shit about that. You just don't
I
want
would-
less
I would
rides.
like to make a motion
Let's
to
be
continue
real.
this and actually to research the last
wait.
number of years. Oh, sorry,
We have to deal with the first motion.
first motion.
Yes, you can make a alteration to the motion that would then have to be voted on.
These fucking people.
Or you can.
I'm
make it-
willing to withdraw my motion if it includes, that's.
We have a withdrawal of the motion from Member King. Dr. Johnson, would you like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion that we continue this case or defer this case until the next meeting, or until we could perhaps look into a number of years of similar cases and the circumstances so that
Oh,
we
yeah,
could
let's do it. Let's spend a lot more
reassess,
state money on that. I
how
love
the
it.
board
You know,
deals
rather
with
than
these
helping
cases so that we
voters
can
get
be
to the polls with
consistent
state money,
and
let's go
uniform
ahead and
as we
just
deliberate these. These
spend it
tend to
on
come up
looking
often
back.
enough every election and,
Yeah. Do
so
they?
I think
Well, then why don't you
consistency
remember
is
what you
the- is
decided
the
last
key.
time? Yeah, based on
Okay.
vibes.
So a motion to defer and
A motion to,
You think
Dr. Johnson's made a
consistency
motion
is
to
the
continue
key?
this case to a future meeting, which time we'll have the respondents be able to respond. The board will also make a request to the Secretary of State's investigators that they
That's fine.
give a history of prior cases like this and how the
Yeah,
board has
exactly. Let's just stop.
reacted to those and voted on those
You know
cases.
what? Election schmelection.
Yes. Is there a second?
Second.
We have motion and second. Any further discussion?
They want lunch.
Hearing no further
That's
discussion,
what
all
they
those in
want.
favor of continuing this case to a future meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing no opposition, so moved.
Whoa.
This case be continued by a vote of
Okay.
3-0. Mr. Sibley.
Why can't the
Let's
other
read the
woman
case,
say
and then
no?
we'll
I'm
give
going to
you
vote
a couple of
no. I
minutes
want it
to make your
fucking
comments.
dismissed.
Okay. And this is SEB 2022-370, Fulton County Buckhead Library interference by poll watcher. It's tab number 11.
Okay. So I briefed this case probably 2 or 3 times. So I'll give the Reader's Digest version this time. So on October 28th, 2022, we received a complaint regarding Mr. Sibley, who was acting as a poll watcher at the Buckhead Library. We had 2 poll workers there, Mrs. Kate Daniels and DeCosta Jordan, who complained about Mr. Sibley's actions on that day. They claimed that he created a disturbance, did not listen to their instructions, and ultimately he was asked to leave. We have reached out to those 2 poll workers. We've tried to interview them. They did provide the interview. However, they expressed at that point in time that as far as their involvement, that was it as far as those interviews. I'm not sure if they're here today, but based on the many times that we've briefed this case, now our recommendation is based on the lack of cooperation from the poll watchers who provided statements regarding Mr. Sibley's conduct and actions, that the case be dismissed.
Oh my God. So what did Mr. Sibley do? Can you give me that
Mr.
fucking
Sibley,
Reader's Digest version,
would you
bitch?
please take the podium? The podium.
Come
Your
on,
turn.
Mr.
It's your turn.
Sibley. Tell us what you did. Oh my God.
About 3 minutes.
It's a fucking joke.
Okay.
I think it was Thurgood Marshall that said you can
Sit
indict a
down.
ham sandwich, and I'm the ham sandwich. What he said was true. The guy came in, told me I was prohibited from staying in room 3. There's 3 rooms at Buckhead Library where the Dropbox was. I said, why? Well, we have a camera. So I just wanted to sit and watch it. I said, I don't know if the camera works. So anyway, long story short, she violated 3 laws and 3 poll watcher rules. So I'm here not to defend myself because, I mean, the violation was there and it's been dismissed and I've only got 2 minutes. So what I'm here for is for the poll watchers of this state. This lady was vindictive. She didn't know the laws and she kicked me out. Even kicking me out with an armed guard was a violation because it clearly states that I need that as a person there that I needed 2 warnings. It says in the code section, after being duly warned by the poll manager or superintendent, he or she may be removed by such an official. It came out of the blue. There was no charges. They said I was guilty of an incident. There was no incident. So I'm totally befuddled. But 2 years later, I still don't know what the charge was. So what I would like out of this is 3 things. Mrs. Daniels, being the poll watcher, poll worker, supervisor, should never be in that position again. She's vindictive and ignorant of the law. We need stricter laws so as not to have more people in charge of the polls, the supervisors, that exceed her authority, which she clearly did.
She needs a manager.
And the investigator should be retrained. And I say that because my letter from the Secretary of State investigator had virtually the answer to why this should not be a violation. And if she had only read down a couple more, 2 inches on the letter I got, all of this would not have taken place. And I wouldn't have been meeting with the Board of Elections for 5 times. This is my 5th trip.
your
So anyway, I'm not, I'm just asking you to give the poll watchers more
What?
laws on their
Yeah.
behalf. They
What
should maybe,
laws? Yeah,
the
no,
supervisor
big
should
government.
call up
Wait, wait a
her
minute.
supervisor and say,
Nope,
we have
wait,
a poll
scratch
watcher
that.
that did such and such and violated. I
Big
didn't,
government
I
for
didn't
them,
receive
not for
any
me.
notification I was being
That's
kicked
right.
out. I mean, you'd by
Such
an
and
armed
such
guard,
and
which is
violate. I didn't
crazy.
receive it. Yeah,
Most of
they
the
didn't
poll
warn me
watchers
at
now
all. I
are
was screaming
retired.
so
There are a
granted
lot
I
of
couldn't
grannies
hear
out there that are poll
anything.
watchers. There's a lot of grandfathers out there.
Right,
And they are
like
intimidated
me.
by somebody like
Chad.
this woman. I'm not
Aw.
intimidated. I didn't do anything wrong. So I appreciate you, appreciate this time. I told you I only take 2 minutes. And I appreciate you dismissing this case. Because if I stood up here, I could blow this case out of the water with laws, not with what I did, with what they did
Oh, it's
and their
only gonna get
violation of the
worse,
laws.
Jim.
So I'm going to let it die. But I do ask that you
Oh,
give
well,
poll watchers,
never
you've got a
mind.
week before the polls open. Give them
Yeah,
more
contempt for lying
teeth.
about what Thurgood Marshall
Give them
said,
something to
damn
fall
it.
back on. And don't just have somebody say, okay, I don't like your looks. I don't like your blouse. Get
No,
out.
you know what? I don't like
You
your
know, you
butt.
violated
Wait,
something
what?
or another,
Oh,
dress
what?
code.
Your
You know, we
butt?
can't have this. Otherwise, why have a poll
Well,
watcher?
turn around. Let's
And
see
that's
what
it.
we're
Thank you very
working with.
much.
Thank you, Mr. Sibley. I'm sorry you had to come back so many times.
Oh, fuck
part of it's my
off.
fault. I'll accept
He doesn't have
responsibility.
anything else to
You think the
do.
Secretary of State would pay my
He's only missing
$85
his
in
coffee
parking?
circle at McDonald's. Get out.
Yeah.
No.
Probably not, but I'll ask him that.
No, we won't. Sit down. You're a whiny
This
butt
case has been recommended
asshole.
for
He was
dismissal.
probably a big
Any
dick.
questions from the board?
Yeah.
Is
How
there a
big a
motion?
dick were you?
So moved.
We have a motion to dismiss this case. Or a second?
Yes, please. No.
The motion and a second. Any
Wait, what?
discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of dismissing this case, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
What?
Any opposition? Hearing no opposition, so moved. Case is dismissed 3-0.
They dismissed it because the two women didn't want to probably talk anymore about it because they're probably facing a bunch of threats from local
The
incels.
Next section of cases is violation cases recommended for letters of instruction or referral to the
This
Attorney
is
General's.
fascinating.
Or letter
He
of
was
reprimand.
a giant dick
so
at the polls.
During this portion,
I'm
we'll
not gonna
discuss
leave room
letters of
3.
instruction, letters of reprimand.
I want to
or
intimidate
referral
every
to the
voter who
Attorney
comes in
General.
here.
The first case on the agenda is SEB 2018-104
So what if I yelled boo
Habersham
every
County.
time someone came
Eligibility
in?
of voters. Mr. Gassaway is here. Did you want to speak during this, Mr. Gassaway?
I was just making sure they weren't robots. I had to make sure there were no mules coming into that room 3. Drop off a bunch of ballots. I wanted to make sure everybody had one ballot in their hand. I don't know.
Let's hear the presentation from the Secretary of State first. Okay.
Where is he? Is he there? Hey, Brad. Oh, is he on the screen? Hi, everybody. I'm Brad Raffensperger.
2018-104 Habersham County. This was continued. I believe the original date was sometime in 2021. It was continued for allegation 2 and 3 because the previous board wanted the county to be cited since the voters were already cited. The allegations were, as reported to the Office of the Secretary of State, that multiple individuals had wrongfully voted out of district in the
down.
House District 28 special election of December 4th, 2018. Knowingly and providing false information to an elections registrar concerning actual residents of habitation is a violation of OCGA 212571. Allegation 4 is the complainant also alleged that during the House District 28 special election of December 4th, 2018, an individual voted twice during the early voting period. Repeat voting in the same election or primary is a violation of OCGA 212572. So there were Carrie Akers, Constance Franklin, Patricia Bauer, and Rachel, no, not that one. And those 3 were already found by the Superior Court to have voted illegally due to her, like Constance Franklin was found by the Superior Court to have voted illegally due to her having moved to a residence outside of House District 28. Patricia Bauer was found by the Superior Court to have voted illegally due to her having moved to a residence outside of House District 28. Carrie Akers was found by the Superior Court to have voted illegally due to her having resided at the time in Banks County. So the board had requested that the county be cited as well. So we have Habersham County Board of Registrars and Laurel Ellison, the election supervisor.
What a
There's
bloody
evidence
waste
to
of
suggest
time.
that after Constance Franklin notified Habersham
What a
County's
bloody
elections
fucking
office of her
waste of
new
time.
address on 5/22/2018, they failed to correct the voter registration address for her for the general election and the general runoff. Habersham County Board of Registrars and Laurel Ellison, election supervisor, were also cited for 21-218C. There's evidence to suggest that Patricia Bauer notified Habersham County's election office of her new address on 5/22/18. They failed to correct the voter registration address for Patricia Bauer for the 11/6/2018 general election when she early voted on 10/23/18. When she voted on 12/4/2018, her new address was on the voting certificate.
Are there any questions from the board for the Secretary of State's investigator? Is there a respondent here from county?
I'm here on, I'm online.
No respondent from Habersham County?
She's on Zoom.
I'm here online.
Yes, away.
What?
Can we keep it to just a couple minutes, please?
Oh, boy.
Uh-oh.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman. You have somebody on Zoom. Yeah.
The respondent can.
Habersham County's on Zoom.
Oh, they're on Zoom?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we will let Mr. Gassaway speak, and then we'll let the respondent speak.
Oh, you're gonna
after Mr.
keep him on
Gassaway,
Zoom?
Since he was the
Nice.
complainant. Mr. Gassaway.
So this is back to the theme. And when I came up earlier, I didn't know y'all were going to allow me to speak. So when I came up earlier, I mentioned about this case. So how do we move Georgia forward in this environment? This case is 2,131 days old today. So what Connie Franklin, and let's remember this.
2018.
If I have everybody's attention, Connie Franklin has a spouse named Mike Franklin who
What?
did the exact same thing, and his
What?
name is not mentioned.
What?
So that tells you we had no investigation.
What?
So you're saying, well, where did these facts come from? I'll tell you where these facts came from. I threw this election out in Superior Court. After the judge was ordered to not let me win, I put a handful of the criminals on the
That's a
stand
feeling.
so that
That's a
there was no
feeling.
way out. They had to give me a new
Oh, my
election.
God.
I didn't put all the criminals on the stand.
Oh, my God.
I should have.
Oh, my
'Cause it would have
God.
taken about 3 weeks to have the trial if I had.
Oh, my
I put enough
God.
criminals on the stand. Connie Franklin is the Stevens County School Superintendent.
happening
These are
right
not
now?
people who are just regular old Joes in this world. These
What
are
the hell?
educated people doing this. Connie Franklin testified on the stand that she moved in October of 2017.
I can't
She voted
even.
illegally multiple times.
Oh, my God.
Carrie Akers was voting from an address where there was no domicile at all.
Oh, my
No
God.
camper, no tent, no nothing. She lived in a complete different county.
Oh,
But my
my
point is this,
God.
the admissions by the investigation division of the Secretary of State is what we've got to look at here. This is how do we move Georgia forward? We have to expose the fact that there was no real investigation done here. Banks County's not mentioned. Banks County changed election boundaries in an effort to defeat me in a court of law a week before we went to trial. And they changed election boundaries. This is a federal violation every time there's a federal candidate on the ballot. They changed election boundaries. Dale Russell found this. Y'all have probably seen this story. And they created fraudulent election boundaries.
Oh, my God.
Now, I have since Dale Russell did an interview with me on this. This is not mentioned in the investigation.
make a
The
joint.
fabrication of election boundaries by the Banks County government, you didn't hear it. That's my point. How do we move Georgia forward? We have no real investigation. It's not her fault. It's not his fault. Brian Germany called Jake Evans after we won in court because they were upset because we weren't supposed to win and said, we want the names.
What the hell is going on
Jake
here?
gave Ryan Germany the names of the ones we got thrown out. But it was only because I only put a handful of the criminals on the stand. I could have put a bunch of criminals on
I
stand, but we
can't
had
even
felony
see the-
criminal
what's
activity by
happening
the
right
Banks
now?
County
How is he
election
allowed to speak
superintendent
like
on the
this? This is
stand.
so,
You didn't
like,
hear any of that.
Slanderous.
There's felony criminal activity
It's like
by the Banks and
slanderous.
Franklin County election superintendents today. You didn't hear any of that. There is going to be significant illegal voting occurring in the
No, there
election that we
isn't.
have next month.
Oh, stop
You don't hear
yourself.
any of that. Now, I and some
Karen,
serious
sit
lawyers I'm
down.
associated with met with the Attorney General's
Clutch your
office, serious
pearls
lawyers
between your
inside the Attorney
legs
General's
and
office.
hang on.
They know about this. This is the
Brace
biggest
yourself,
stinker in the
Bridget.
history of Georgia. And from our friends on the left, this occurred in a
You
Republican
don't have any
primary.
friends on the left.
This wasn't Democrat versus Republican. We've got to
Oh my
do
God,
something
yeah, I know.
different
That's
here.
what Lindell
This
says,
is
too.
serious criminal activity.
Baby, it's not.
And it's not
You
these
need to
people's
calm.
fault. Their
You calm your
supervisors
jets.
are
Go get
telling them to
laid.
cover up this fraud. There's
get
no
a-
other
go get a
explanation
blowjob
for
or
it than what I
something.
just said. So I'm asking you,
Calm down.
I will help you any way we can. We have
Yeah,
been to the
you just
Attorney
wanna
General.
fuck
I
everything
have
up.
been to Kim Spellfowler, a special agent with FBI Civil Rights Division in Atlanta. She knows all about this. United States Attorney Kurt Erskine, he knows all about this. We've got to do something different. You know, and it's not a
Sounds like a you problem.
a Democrat versus Republican
No,
in
it's
this case.
it
It's the
actually
big
is,
Gainesville
but
machine
okay.
wanted me gone, and they were not going to stop at
It's actually
anything to see it done.
democracy
And that was
versus
Republican versus
authoritarianism,
Republican, if
but
you will.
okay.
So it's not her fault. She was
She's looking
led
at
by
him like,
Ryan
"Bitch,
Germany
you need
down
to
the
sit the
path
fuck
that she's
down."
on. But this is undisputed criminal activity, manipulation of election boundaries, and it's not even mentioned
It's
in
not
this
even
investigation.
It ain't
Thank
even
you.
funny.
My question is, this appears to be a pretty limited scope investigation, just 4 individuals that either double voted or that were not properly handled by the election supervisor in registration. So it really didn't have much to do with the boundaries and all that stuff. It's really a limited scope case.
And I've just told you why, because Ryan Germany wanted this to go away.
Oh my God, that's a feeling. That's a feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm going
not
to translate
disagreeing
this
with
to
any of that.
California
I'm just
English. I'm pretty sure
wondering
black people voted.
why.
We must stop
No,
that.
no,
That's
no,
exactly
I'm
what it
wondering,
is. That's exactly what it sounds like to me too, Oren.
I'm wondering whether there's
Sounds
another
like a whole
case that
bunch
needs
of
to be
racism to
investigated
me.
beyond what we're dealing with today, because what we're dealing with today
Knowing
is
that you can't
is
win
4
if everybody
allegations of,
votes. That's a problem.
yes,
If
sir.
you know you can't win when everyone votes,
I'd like to
that's a you
reiterate
problem.
that this case was already presented in 2021, so I'm not sure what they voted on back then. But it was advised that
So you're
the county,
rehashing old
the board
cases?
at that point wanted the
Wow,
county cited.
what a great use
and
of
that is what
taxpayer
was
money,
focused on
Georgia.
From then.
How much do
But the
these
actual
fucking board
report
members make
mentions-
for this?
I didn't redo the entire case, but we talk about the special runoff in the Superior Court and
No, that's not the Zoom
and all of
lady.
that. But the part
They
that
haven't heard
the
from
board
the Zoom
referred
lady
it,
yet.
continued it, was because they wanted the county
That's the
cited
county.
for those 2 violations.
For the 2 that are in here.
She's
Yes.
waiting.
Member
She's
Gazal, do you have
waiting.
any
Well,
comments?
well, my first comment is, I don't want to say an apology, but I was the one who continued the case in 2021. I'm the only member of the board now who was here. Because I was deeply troubled that the county had not been cited for its failure to update the voter registrations of these voters, and that could have prevented this from happening. And because of all of the changes
Where is this?
within.
She's sitting there
within
waiting.
The investigation
But
office,
they
it's
let the
taken
white guy
several
go.
years
I
to
don't
get
know,
back
the
on here.
bitchy white
And
guy.
I deeply regret that you have had to wait this long to hear this. I'm looking forward to hearing from the county because it seemed to me that it was very, very clear that they
Seems to me it's
failed
a
in their
county
duty
issue.
to update voter registrations and re-register voters at their new addresses after they had provided that in May. If that had taken place, these people would not have been districted in your district and therefore would not have cast a
Oh.
ballot. I want to make it very
So the
clear though,
county
that when
actually
somebody
fucked
moves
up?
within a county, they are still authorized
Oh my
to cast
God.
a ballot.
Yeah.
And those ballots count,
God.
except for those districts where they're no longer resident. And that is where having an election challenge makes the difference, and having the data and having that. But they did not commit a crime for voting But their registration should have been changed to accurately reflect where they lived inside the county.
If I may just clarify, because your reaction
This is
tells me
fucking
you still
ridiculous.
don't understand what went on.
Oh,
And I'm
fuck
not trying
you.
to be arrogant.
No, you are. You're
I've
being
just lived this for
insulting.
6 years. I've spent $138,000 of my own money.
Well, you're an
So I want to
idiot.
make sure we really understand what went on here. Constance Franklin and her husband, who's not mentioned here, but they're married, were living in the same domicile, sold their domicile and moved to a domicile in Terry Rogers District in October of 2017. So then she went and voted in the presidential primary, which I didn't pull that voter certificate, but that should have had her new address written and given opportunity one for Ellison to correct it. Then she voted again. And the reason I'm pressing this, because Brian Tyson made your same argument in court against me. She voted a second time in May of 2018, wrote the new address. A third time in the runoff between Brian Kemp and Casey Cagle in July of 2018, and then a fourth time in December of 2018. So there are 4 opportunities for the election superintendent to have corrected that, and she did not.
And that is precisely why I continued the case to make sure that the election superintendent was listed as a respondent.
And she was operating under a standing court order to do that in addition to the law. And she's still on the job today.
So what?
But now we see no mention of Mike Franklin in this investigation.
This guy
Why?
does this to get off. Because he has no
Was there an
power in his own
investigation
life.
really done by the Secretary of State? The answer to that question is no. I'm asking, the old adage, don't ask a question you don't know the answer. So
Fuck
I'm going
off.
to ask him an answer. No. Listen, I know y'all are in a tough environment here, but we could learn so much from this case to move Georgia
Yeah, no
forward.
way.
There's some statutory things that need to be clarified. We've got fraud by a district attorney in Franklin County now associated with this case.
What?
I mean, there's a lot of corruption
What?
here. And the only way we move Georgia forward is to
What?
find a way to get to the root of the corruption. In the Carrie Akers case,
I'd turn the camera on
they
yourself.
go to the
then,
same
friend.
church, by the way. Mike Franklin, Connie Franklin, Carrie Akers, that's 3, go to the same church. And they all voted against me, and I lost by. So everybody can call Dan a sore loser, but numbers matter in this business. But Carrie Akers' case, she
There
sold
we
her house
go.
in the
There we
district,
go. Ding,
changed
ding,
her
ding.
voter registration to a place where there is no house,
That's right.
nowhere to live,
I
and was
love
living
it.
in a whole different county. Even Brian Tyson could not find a way to
That's what
argue
it
around
is.
that
He
one.
lost.
But this went on multiple times.
He
So
lost.
I hear you. So, and I want to say this
They all
last
went to
thing,
the same
and I'm not trying to, I have lived this, and we are going to
saw him
go
down at the Piggly
to
Wiggly
the federal
in the
court on the
produce
sheriff
section.
issue, because I know there
Yes,
is
I
the
did.
political will in this
Yes, I
state.
did. I think
It
they were
can't happen.
conspiring
So we're going
against
to deal
me
with that.
among
But
the
I want us to
avocados.
find a way to move Georgia forward in the midst of what is a significant case. Because I've got a friend
Conspiracy,
who's a real
Rico
expert in
amongst
this
the
room who
avocados,
just
if you
went down to
will.
Tift County a couple weeks ago and threw out an election
A side
because
of
of districting
kale
errors.
with
We've got, we're being
Controversy.
run so poorly that any election within 3% can be thrown out by districting errors right now.
Oh my
We've got to somehow, and I think the way
But
we
not mine,
send the
because
message
apparently
is we
nobody
indict the election superintendents. Order the district attorney to indict them. That's the only way, and that would go to all 159 counties. The Association of County Commissioners of Georgia would call an emergency meeting. They'd all run down to Jekyll Island, and they would say, look, there's a new sheriff in
I
town.
know.
We're going to clean up this mess in Georgia.
Fucking
That's
hell.
the only way this gets fixed.
What? What are you
But
talking
again,
about?
I'm just trying to make sure you understand Constance Franklin and her
I'm just trying
husband,
to make
who's not
you
mentioned
understand.
here.
That's
His
right, they
name's Mike
voted
Franklin,
against me.
did the same thing. He's not in your investigation at all.
And
Why?
then when
Because I
was
didn't
pulling
litigate
pulling
against
on
him
in
because he's a mega church
to the
preacher
Wawa
in
to
Habersham
get some
County.
gasoline.
And you
all of a
litigate
sudden,
against a mega
Connie
church preacher,
Franklin,
it's like litigating
where
against
the
an
boys
illegal
are,
sheriff.
she
It
just
gets you
runs right in front of
crucified,
me,
even if you're
starts
right.
singing. Yes, she
Anyway,
did.
I want to help y'all. I don't want to work against you. This doesn't do me any
I don't want
good.
to work against you.
I mean,
I want to win.
my
I
money's
want to win my
gone. I want to see Georgia go
$138,000
forward.
back. He's
We've got
real
so much
bitter.
animosity out here because it's this Trump versus stop the steal. We've got real problems that aren't getting fixed because of the propaganda.
Oh, really?
These are
Well,
real problems we can fix.
I have some
And I want to
people you can
move
talk to
Georgia
about that.
forward. Thank you.
I mean,
I don't need any applause.
No
Weren't
applause.
these individuals, prosecuted?
Please.
No, because they actually had provided their
Yeah,
updated address.
they didn't
Well,
break
we
the fucking
we deferred
law.
the case. They updated
God, this is
when they
dumb.
signed their voter certificate, according to the facts and according to the investigation. These voters provided
This woman
that
needs to
updated address
ball up.
in
Come on,
May.
man.
When they voted in
have
the
it.
primary, don't know about the presidential preference primary. But by doing that, by providing their updated address, they fulfilled their statutory obligation
Exactly.
to update their address for the county. It is the county that failed to actually document and update the address within the voter registration database, which is exactly why I sent it back and said we can't
can we hear from the
adjudicate the case
county?
properly without the county as a party.
I agree with you.
Oh
In
my
the
God.
Connie Franklin case, the county failed. The Carrie Akers case, she committed felony criminal activity.
Oh,
I
brother.
actually,
That's a feeling.
I disagree with that assessment because residency is a very complicated issue. And when she moved, excuse me,
Please.
when she would temporarily
Fucking
stayed
people. Fucking maggots.
at her parents', she never had an intention to create residency there.
Right.
So just like when a
Are you
when
kidding me?
when
This
a
kid-
voter
Oh my God.
has to go to out of state and for work. They're allowed to vote an absentee ballot and they can get their absentee ballot sent there because they are working temporarily in an area and they do not intend to establish residency. Residency is a very subjective matter here. I could be convinced either way, whether
No,
the
you can't.
previous residence or the future residence is where they had established residency, even though their heads were not sleeping on that pillow. But looking at the analogy of both people who travel for work
Right, move with intent to
and our
establish
UACAVA
residency.
voters
Right.
who are temporarily overseas, but they do not
temporary,
intend to establish
college
residency
students.
overseas. They intend to return. I do not believe that she established residency outside of Habersham County.
Okay, let me add another fact.
Okay,
Because I am engaged with this
feeling.
discussion.
Yep.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. So she testified on the stand that she intended to move to the address where there's no house. Okay, but that's one thing about this case being 2,132 days old. We got a lot of history now. She, in fact, now, and the address where there was no house wasn't in the district either.
The penis is so
She wasn't in the
small.
district
It's
or in the
so
county. But let's set all
minuscule.
that aside and stay with this theme that we're
Actually
talking about
is
here. 'Cause
far
this is
below
for those
average, and for that, his
think this
pain
is all simple, it's
in an
not. And the
inverse
conversation she
relationship.
and I are having is a very, very, very important conversation. Because
Yeah.
what y'all don't know is I am
Connie turned
the
him down for
person who
swinging. That's really what
challenged
this comes
the
down
only
to.
real
Let me just cut to
plaintiff
the
in
chase.
the federal case, Fair Fight v. True the Vote. So I have been engaged with this for
I've
a
been
long
fighting
time.
voter.
It's near and dear
I've
to my
been
heart,
working towards voter
138,000
suppression
reasons.
for years now.
So, but Akers said she lived at an address where she didn't live, but she intended to one day live there. But in fact, now 2,132 days later, she lives at a whole nother address in a
Yeah,
whole
probably 'cause
nother
you
area of
fucking
Habersham County that
doxed her.
wouldn't be in the district either. So at what point do we say, well, I intend to find a way to make back my $138,000, but my wife looks at me and goes, I'm tired of you intending. I want you to go out here and make the money back that you pissed away on trying to get honest legal
Oh,
elections
now
in the
we
state
got
of
some
Georgia.
insider
So
baseball.
at some point we got to say intentions stop and criminal activity starts. And that's what we're talking about here. That in the Fair Fight True the Vote case, that young lady, and I told my friends at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, I'm not out here to go after young women who just made a mistake. She didn't want her parents to know she was living with her boyfriend in Atlanta, so she didn't change her address.
Oh my God.
That's not, but people like a Constance Franklin or a Mike Franklin, who y'all haven't heard about for some reason. That's the real good question you need to be thinking about. Why did we not hear about Mike Franklin,
Chester the molester. Oh my
the
God.
husband of Constance Franklin? I'm
He's a
not here to
fucking
do that,
creepy
but we've
dude by
got
the
to find
river.
out, this board has to decide, where
Oh
is this
shit,
line?
man. He's one of those
Where's this
gropey
line?
maggots.
And Federal Judge
Oh my
Jones
God, they can't
agreed
keep
with
their
me.
hands to themselves.
He
Oh
thinks my
God.
line's the right line.
So there are two different
only doing that,
inquiries.
Oren,
One is
he's
whether
asking
the
for her to
vote
be, like,
counted.
imprisoned.
And that is for the judge to determine, and the judge, I think,
Yeah.
appropriately determined that these votes did not count.
Exactly. Or whatever.
But we do not have jurisdiction for that. We do have jurisdiction over whether or not the individuals violated election law. And if I have a question, I am and I can see that there was no intent to deceive or intent. My personal philosophy is I will find in favor of the voter, because there is no intent, because it is subjective, because if we as professionals in this, and I, after 2,000 days, I consider you really have been immersed in this. If we are having a cogent discussion that is not clear, it's not at all clear. I am not going to find that a voter who has no background in this should be held liable for their mistake, because it was a mistake, but I'm not going to find them liable. I will, however, find the county liable for failure to do the duty, which is to update those records
And that's
properly.
a good.
And
that's
that
a
would be
good-
great. And if we can have that election superintendent relieved, because remember, she was operating under
No.
a standing court order in this case
up.
not to do it. And she
Shut
did it
up.
anyway.
No, you are
Operating
like,
under a standing
obviously
court order.
someone hurt you, okay?
And see, as we all know, we
chicks
vote a
didn't
secret
dig
ballot in
you
this
or
country
something,
because you
right?
can't
Like,
ever say how somebody
can't get it
votes.
up.
You
I
can't
don't know
ever
what's
prove
going
how
on with
somebody
you,
votes.
dude, and I don't really
But
give a
if they're
shit.
calling you a
But
no
you
good
clearly
SOB on
have this
Facebook for 60
misogyny
days,
thing
there's a
down
good
pat.
chance they're not voting for you. I'll just tell you as a candidate. I spent 6 years down the hall here in the General Assembly. So we can't tell how these people vote. But in case of Mike Franklin, who y'all haven't heard about, he
Oh my
told
God,
State
you know
Representative
what?
Terry
I know Mike
Rogers after I
Franklin
threw
now
out the
better
first
than I
race,
know, like,
he hoped
I
I
don't know,
lost in a landslide.
first
And then
cousin.
he and his wife went and voted illegally to help make that happen. You know how many votes I lost by?
2.
2.
We know.
Actually, forget. It's like I told my friend Mike Beatty. This business, all these people think dynamic things happen in this
Right.
building. There's a lot of crooked stuff happens in this building.
Oh,
I
here we
don't
go.
really want back into this game.
Here we go.
I just want to see this part fixed. And there's so much can be fixed that we're not fixing. That is what I'm about, and I want to help you. Am I going to spend a bunch more money to go to federal court and prove myself right in the illegal sheriff? Yes, we're going. Get ready. If y'all aren't going to help, we're going. And it's going to happen. That's not a threat, it's a promise.
Wait.
Because manipulating election boundaries is a federal crime. Not only is it a state crime,
Inquiries. One is whether the
need to hear
vote
that
counted.
again.
And that is for the judge to determine, and the judge, I think, appropriately determined that these votes did not count. But we do not have jurisdiction for that.
There's some
We do have
interesting
jurisdiction over whether or not the individuals
coming up.
violated election law. And if I have a question, I am and I can see that there was no intent to deceive or intent. My personal philosophy is I will find in favor of the voter, because there is no intent, because it is subjective, because if we as professionals in this.
I didn't mean to go
and-
back
and
so
I-
far, but
after
I don't want to miss
2,000 days,
this.
I consider you
Magus
really have been
got,
immersed in this.
this guy
If
or
we
several.
are
Oh,
having
hey,
a
I
cogent
feel like we've heard
discussion
them,
that is not
even in our
clear, it's
little
not at all
views
clear.
of this world.
I am not going to find that
Oh
that a
my fucking
voter
God.
who has no background in this should be held liable for their mistake.
I
Because
know,
it was a
isn't it
mistake.
slander?
But I'm
Could
not
be.
going to find them liable.
willing.
I will, however, find the
right,
county
let's see
liable
what-
for failure to do the duty.
Okay, come on.
Which is to update those
let
records.
whiny baby
properly.
bitch talk.
and that would be great.
Here we go.
And if we can have that election superintendent relieved, because remember, she was operating under a standing court order in this case not to
We
do
know,
it.
we know.
And she did it anyway. Operating under a standing court order. And see, as we all know, we vote a secret ballot in this country because you can't ever say how somebody votes. You can't ever prove how somebody votes. But if they're calling you a no good SOB on Facebook for 60 days, there's a good chance they're not voting for you. I'll just tell you as a candidate. I spent 6 years down the hall here in the General Assembly. So we can't tell how these people vote. But in case of Mike Franklin, who y'all haven't heard about, he told State Representative Terry Rogers after I threw out the first race, he hoped I lost in a landslide. And then he and his wife went and voted illegally to help make that happen. You know how many votes I lost by? 2. Forget, it's like I told my friend Mike Beatty. This business, all these people think dynamic things happen in this building.
Listen.
There's a lot of crooked stuff happens in this building. I don't really want back into this game. I just want to see this part fixed. And there's so much can be fixed that we're not fixing. That is what I'm about, and I want to help you. Am I going to spend a bunch more money to go to federal court and prove myself right in the illegal sheriff? Yes, we're going. Get ready. If y'all aren't going to help, we're going. And it's going to happen. That's not a threat. It's a promise. Because manipulating election boundaries is a federal crime. Not only is it a state crime,
What's
it is a
illegal,
federal
Sheriff?
crime.
What
And
the fuck
Banks
is
in Franklin County did it. Not Franklin, actually. Banks County did it in this case. Think about a state where you have 2 counties claiming a big swath of the same election territory on a map. You think that nobody in this room understands it, but I can tell you this. Every licensed land surveyor in the state of Georgia understands this like that. You don't need to be a brain surgeon. You just need to have a licensed land surveyor explain it to you. My problem was my lawyer, who's a good young lawyer, Jake Evans, they don't teach anything about land surveying at the University of Georgia Law School, I guess. I need to go over there and start teaching classes, probably get some of my money back because he didn't understand the fraud that was perpetrated on us in the court case. But they perpetrated the fraud at 5:30 on Friday before we went to trial on Monday. Think about how corrupt that is. They changed the election boundaries at 5:30 on Friday before I went to trial on Monday about election boundaries. That happened in the state of Georgia and nothing's been done. You hear about that in the investigation? You didn't hear a peep. Because Ryan Jeremy told him to bury it.
What?
There you go.
There
So
you
that's
go.
just the straight truth.
Oh, there
I
you
want to
go.
help y'all. I want to move forward.
And
There are easy
there you go.
solutions to a lot of this.
That's
a
right.
lot.
Just make me
And I'm not going to
king.
divulge the
Wait a
attorney
minute.
general that we met with, assistant attorney general.
No, I don't want to
She's smart.
put her
She's
in.
good. She knows all about this. I had 2 very, very serious
I don't wanna
lawyers,
put
much
her
more
in jail.
experienced than Jake Evans, with me in the meeting. This isn't a game. This is real.
sorry.
It's serious business at the highest levels of politics in this state.
Right.
But
Derp
it's
state.
got to be fixed.
Derp state.
I'll answer any more questions.
State,
I won't
derp
waste
state.
any more of your time.
The state
I just
derp
ask
state.
y'all to go, where was Mike Franklin's name in this investigation?
So for my, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, for my
He's up my butt.
clarification, the individual that you two were talking about, you're stating that her intentions was not to commit fraud. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying her intention was not to establish residency outside of the county.
And commit fraud, to commit fraud, right?
Stop it.
I mean, because we're
Wait, mens
challenging
rea?
her from, because we're saying that she committed fraud. But am I correct in stating that she's voted several times incorrectly?
Yes. No, Connie Franklin was the 4. I don't remember on Acres.
So are you referring to Acres or?
I'm referring
Oh
to
my
Acres. That's
God.
correct.
Acres is the one that voted out of county, and even Brian Tyson could not find a crazy legal argument to make that right.
She voted outside the county
Bitter bitch.
once?
At
Is this just
least.
one time?
I think
At
multiple
least.
times.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
God
Do-
knows.
do
It's
we know that?
multiple, and that's like a
it was
felony.
We're
3
working
strikes,
off of
you're out.
memory. Like I said, if y'all will
Death
take me up
row?
on my offer,
Make
we'll do a
another
real
room. We
investigation
got
and you can see
election
what a real
fraud.
investigation looks like compared to, and again, I'm not attacking these people. They're
You
doing
are
the best
actually.
they can.
Oh my God, 100%, dude.
I had
A
some very serious
100%.
professionals helping me.
I was born at
and
night,
we
but
put
I wasn't
together a
born
real
last
investigation. You could have that and show the General Assembly
Sorry.
this. And I could get that for you as part of this real investigation.
Can you? Oh, real?
To see how many times she did it.
Oh
Yeah,
my
because
God.
I feel like we can argue
Give
intent
it up, dude.
one time,
That's
but
his
voting
regular-
4
that's right.
times.
Clean up,
At this
clean
point, we can't say that the intent was not to deceive.
He
I think we speak to the law. The law says you get 1 vote in your old precinct, which is your opportunity to
This is
change
like
your
U.S.
voter registration.
Constitution Party guy.
Now, there are statutes,
He's like a super
and Brian
maggot.
Tyson can argue these, he can come up with all kinds of stuff by saying that, well, it's in the same county,
I
you
bet
know,
you he has a
that,
white hood
that
somewhere in his,
muddies the waters. And this is something that
his
needs to be
closets.
cleaned up. There's
bet
some
you.
legislative fixes
It might be
and tweaks
grandpa's.
that need to occur
I'm
as
not
part of
saying
this
it's his.
investigation.
I'm
But
just saying,
again,
I think
these are
there's
very
a hood
technical
and a cape
items,
somewhere in
and
his closet.
there might be 4 or 5 legislators in both
He's
the House
got
and
the
Senate that have the brain power to understand these issues.
Wait,
So it's
he's
serious
got the
technical stuff,
bigot,
but
bigot
it would go a long way to
blues.
fixing many of our
He's
problems in
got
this
the
state.
bigot and
And also, to
bigoted
be clear, when you say
blues.
Ryan Germany, are you referring to the same Ryan Germany that's going to be monitoring the Fulton County elections?
Okay, look,
Oh, let's talk
Just
about
as a
the
question,
monitors.
just want to make sure I know. I'm
to answer your question,
yes.
yes. To tell everybody here, I'm not on a partisan
Oh,
witch hunt for
okay.
anybody. I'm past that.
No,
I
just
want to
wanna
see
make
it
sure.
fixed.
I just want to make sure. we had
Yeah,
the
there is
same-
the one and only, the one and only, yes. And
Who?
Chris Harvey opened this investigation, who was the election director at the
Get all your
time.
money back.
And you saw the email
Another
where I
Lynn
asked
Bell
Chris Harvey to bring in the United
spends his
States
own
Justice
money.
Department to help us. Instead, I had to litigate and
true.
had gotten everybody against me. You know, it was just a war. But the point
7.
is, this shouldn't happen to anybody else. That's my goal. This should never happen to
FaceTiming?
another Georgian. Because this is the second challenge. I want to make sure y'all understand this is related to my second successful election challenge. My first election challenge, Habersham County put 500 voters switch districts. I had people who voted for me in 7 elections who hadn't moved. The district had not changed, and all of a sudden my name's not on their ballot. That's how this started.
Just 2.
There's no explanation. There's no
It's
universe where
not
that should even be
real.
happening.
They
There would have been
said
no
to me
redistricting.
It's fake news.
There'd been no redistricting.
Don't
They
you
had not moved.
see?
They were legal voters who
I
were
got
disenfranchised.
the
But yet,
bigoted,
no, wait, go ahead.
lost my ballot blues.
Yeah, the first. So when you're referring to people being removed off the list, the Secretary of State, are you saying the Secretary of State's office removed people?
This case was disposed of
Oh,
very
you
quickly.
think so? Oh, they did.
I think it was 2018-63. I'm not sure.
Was it the
This
machine,
was,
sir?
this case
Italy,
shot through the system like lightning.
Serbia,
And somebody got a letter of,
Venezuela,
Laura Ellison got a letter of instruction.
China.
But
Which one? Which one did it? Which
the
one?
point
Where did they
is,
hurt you?
Nobody ever explained to me
Point to the
why.
map
I had to
where they hurt
litigate it. It became very protracted. I had to fight the Attorney General of Georgia on that one. That cost $25,000, just the component of fighting Chris Carr's office, protecting the corruption. Cost me, just that piece of the case cost me $25,000. And that, there's another little legal
Now I
nugget in
can't
that
even
one
go
that needs to be
down
fixed.
to
It's who
the
is a
strip
proper
club.
party to a state
No more
legislative
ones
election contest.
in my
Nobody knows the
pocket.
answer to that. Who
Did
is
I
a proper
tell
party in court
you
to a legislative
I
contest?
lost it by
Chris Carr argues that then Secretary of State
I lost it
was
by
not a proper party, but he certified the election. So how can he not be a proper party? That's a whole nother legal issue for the legal scholars, of which I'm not one. But here, I want to say to y'all lastly, and I'll answer any more detailed questions, but I want to leave y'all with, where's Mike Franklin in this investigation?
I lost it.
Where's his
by
name?
2.
His name's not there because there wasn't really an investigation.
Do you know?
Is there a reason why there was a decision made not to investigate him that was brought to you?
Why I didn't litigate against him or why they didn't investigate him?
Both.
Okay, the reason I didn't litigate it against him is one, what I
Oh,
just
boy.
said. He's a
There's
big
a lot
megachurch
that's
preacher,
up,
and
Teresa.
you know,
It's- none of it's
let's
good.
face it. I know all y'all care about honest
Mike
elections, but
Franklin.
in rural Georgia, which I live in the northeast corner of the state, they don't really care, and that's Trump land. The Trump land doesn't care about honest legal elections. They just want their guy to win. Let me say that again for the crowd. The Trump land doesn't care anymore about honest legal elections than Metro Atlanta. Everybody wants their candidate to win. Somehow we've got to overcome that. And in this political environment we're in, I don't know how we're going to do it, but we got to find a way. So
Let's get
No,
back
I
to
don't really
the.
think
let me
about
ask her a
these
question.
people so
Sorry.
much as what they
she
stand
said, well, I didn't put Mike
for,
Franklin. So
but
part of the reason I didn't put him on the stand was political. Because even though I could have convicted him, you know, that would,
Never heard
you
of
know,
this guy, Mike Franklin.
I'm still trying to
Well,
win
he
an
votes
election.
against you, so watch
The
out.
second reason was, and this is important, I want you to hear this.
Watch out.
He wrote an address down different from Connie Franklin.
Oh my God.
On his voter certificate.
And you know
There
what?
were 4 voter
I don't think
certificates
they
with a
were
different address, but
separated
it was
because
different
I saw
addresses
them
from his
holding
wife.
hands in
So you
the
got a
dry
megachurch
goods
preacher
section of
writing
Piggly Wiggly.
down a different
I
address
did.
from
I
his
saw it.
wife
I
on
saw
his
it
voter
with my own
certificate.
2 eyes,
That
my own
raises
2 baby
other
blues.
big issues. I don't know if y'all are with me, but
Boy,
that was
Georgians
another
really
road
care
I didn't
about
want to
who
go down
sleeps
because I
where.
didn't need it to win the court case.
That's really.
So, but I could never
That's the
find
tea.
out exactly where the address was he was writing on his voter
Well,
certificates.
how-
I
you
knew they
didn't
weren't in the
try hard
district,
enough
but it
then
wasn't the same address she was writing
to
on her
stalk
voter
him.
certificates. It's why I did not litigate against him.
Secret intention to establish
That's as much
residency
inside
away from
baseball
this
as y'all
life.
want probably for
Pretty
today.
much everyone's just
Miss-
been
Miss-
like,
Miss
you know, it's
Ellison's
like
online,
cheaters. This is
Harrison
like a
County?
big episode of
Okay.
cheaters
Yes.
or
I just-
something.
My thought.
Right.
So just to be clear,
Yeah, can you be
the
done?
choice to not
Why is he
investigate
getting
him
to
was
like
because
argue
you did
his
not
entire
litigate
case
him.
here? I'm
We
so
investigated it.
confused.
I just chose not to put him in the complaint.
Got it.
Now, there were
Is there
70 in the
poor
complaint.
respondent
Just
is sitting
while
on
we're
the
on the
fucking
subject, stay
Zoom,
with
by
me.
the way. Don't forget.
There was 70 in the complaint. We only chose to
Literally.
go after 20 because we only needed 2 to
This
win.
is a Cracker Barrel.
And we were
Do you
trying to
want
save court
cornbread
time.
with that?
We were right on all of it. It's like the fair fight
I
through
don't
the
know,
vote case.
Kathy.
I
I don't know
challenged
if Zoom
50
lady is
in
still
Banks
there.
County.
I wouldn't be if I were
Banks
her.
County
She
said I
probably
was
had
right
to
on
pee
25.
like 10 minutes ago.
Data says I'm right
I
on
certainly hope she's
45
not
of the
holding it and
50.
getting
But
a
actually, I'm
UTI
right on
over this
50 of the
stuff.
50.
My God.
So we're
That's a waste.
how do we get to truth in all this? Is
Oh,
part of what we're
God, I
talking
don't
about.
know.
And
Maybe
just so much
stop
horrific
lying.
corruption.
How about that?
But any more
I have
questions
an
for me, and
idea.
I'll get out of your
Hello?
hair.
I have an idea.
And I'll help you. You can privately email. I'm not going to name y'all in this federal suit. I'm doing the federal suit to
Thank you.
drive home the point. We've got an illegal, unconstitutional sheriff riding the roads of the state of Georgia, and that should be, and he was named in this lawsuit as well.
What?
And they fabricated the boundaries the day before we go to trial to make him, they basically testified to a fraudulent statutory boundary. And we've had some recent litigation in Cobb County over some commission districts that were drawn by the General Assembly.
Sheriff for
The General Assembly, the courts of Cobb County, and even Supreme Court Judge Bethel have made it
this is what
clear
this is all about. This show is about
statutory
if you don't
boundaries
live there,
are the
thank
boundaries.
goodness.
This case right here, they say no. They can make up election boundaries any way they want.
Really?
I
Is
don't
that what
think
they said?
that's
It
true.
Sounds like that'd be a hard thing to say.
And that's what
I
we're
don't
going to
know.
have to do in federal court, because I think a federal
Tim
judge
Walz.
is going to
Oh,
agree
I
with
love
me.
Tim Walz. I was hoping
It's
he
just
had a
pitiful
brother.
that I have to spend a bunch more money
I like
to
I like
litigate
that.
this
I like
when
his
we've got so
style.
many crimes being committed here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gasway. Ms. Ellison's online.
Yeah,
Ms. Ellison,
she's
can you
been
hear us?
online.
Yes, I can.
Oh boy, here's the county. This
Can-
is the county.
Can you hear
person
me?
that
Ms.
they
Ellison.
want a drawn quarter.
I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Ms. Ellison, can you hear us? We
Yes.
see your hand raised, but we can't hear you. Is your speaker off?
Mm, let's see.
Oh, you're fine. Topher, get in here. Come
Can you
on.
hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Technical
No,
problem
echoes.
on our end.
Yeah, it's your end. We know
Okay.
that.
So I guess since he's brought up the redistricting, I will start with that. In 2011, I lost my full-time employee due to furloughs. So I was in the office by myself when we were having to do redistricting in 2012 as well. And we had maps on the floor and just a book that we got from our 911 director. I mean, redistricting was a lot different back then. And we didn't have our GIS mapping department. So there was a redistricting issue. We did have some folks out of the wrong or in the wrong district. There was about 408, I believe. And once we were made aware of this by the lawsuit, I got it fixed in less than 2 weeks. And had I known, and I believe in the
have that teed
lawsuit,
up, actually,
Mr. Gasaway and Mark Davis testified that they did know of this issue prior to that, but we never got any notification
But
that
I
they
have
knew
to
that there
run
were
an
some
errand soon, so
districting
I have
issues.
to watch my time.
But we did get it fixed. And as far
I might
as
come on later,
the
though, just to
Miss Constant, let's say
show
Constance
that.
Franklin and Patricia Bauer, they wrote on their voter certificates their new address in May.
We agree, David.
And we were not aware of that until the December election or after the December special election, redo election for Mr. Gathaway, when he contested it again. So we were told by the Secretary of State's office back in 2012 when we started having express polls. That was what was called for our electronic poll book, that we would no longer have to go through each paper voter certificate to change addresses by, that we would be using the express poll, and then of course that we were allowed in code section 212-2-218 D, that in the event that an election moves to a residence within the county or municipality but into a different precinct, or who moves to a residence in the same precinct but a different address and fails to notify the Board of Registrars of such fact by the 5th Monday prior to an election or primary, such election or such elector shall vote in the precinct of such elector's former residence. The superintendent of elections shall make available at each polling place forms furnished by the Secretary of State, which will be completed by each elector to reflect such elector's present legal address or residence. So we were instructing our poll workers, of course, and this is since 2012, if a voter wrote down a different address than what was on their driver's license or on their voter certificate, that they were to give them a change of address form. They were to strongly encourage them to fill it out before they left. But if the voter said they didn't have time, then they were told to take the mail-in with them, and then they could just mail it to us or drop it by our office. We did not get a change of address from Connie Franklin until a mail-in voter registration application on 11/7/2018, which is the day after the November 6th election. So that was stuck in our mailing pile that came in after our deadline to register to vote, which would have been October the 9th, because we have to go by the date for the general election. So any runoff after that would have been still have that date of 10/9, which would also fall the same for the special election. So that wasn't found until after the December election, where we got the lawsuit from Mr. Gathaway. But she did get changed. Her address was changed on, I know I've got a date here. Let me look. Okay, so she was changed on 12/19, so December 19th. So after the December election, she was changed to the correct precinct with her new address. And then Miss Bauer did the same thing. She did her voter certificate in May with the new address. We didn't look at it because we were told we didn't have to do that anymore. And she was given a change of address. And I believe that she said that she thought she had mailed it in, but we did not receive anything from her until receiving a DDS application on December 13th. And we correctly put her in HD 10, hit the correct district with her new address on December the 27th. She did vote early on October 23rd, and in our office, and we had easy vote. So that would print out their absentee ballot application, and it has their address on it twice. And her old address was listed on that application twice, and the voter or the poll worker always tells the voter to review their information. If anything is incorrect, please let us know. And then if it's incorrect, then they normally write in the updated address. And then we do change addresses from absentee ballot applications or early voting applications. So she had not written her new address on that application, so we were not notified at that time that anything had changed. So, after this lawsuit,
I had sent out a survey to all of the counties in the state of Georgia asking if they were still going through and changing addresses from voter certificates, just to make sure that I wasn't the only one, going by what the state told us back in 2012. And I only got about 27 responses, but out of 27 counties, 23 said no, they did not go and use the voter certificates anymore to change addresses, because we hand out the change of addresses to the voters, and they either fill it out at the polling location or they mail it in or bring it to our office. And sometimes they don't do that. So in these two cases, we didn't get them until after the election was over, or notified of that. So that's, again, since then, of course, since the lawsuit, we train our poll workers. When we have the applications, we made them initial next to their address on both locations on the application that was the correct address. So we would always make sure if it wasn't, then they immediately filled out a change of address form and then they voted. Now that we have poll pads, and that is now the check-in or their voter certificate is on the digital screen, then I have them actually tell the voter to initial underneath their address and above their signature, saying that that address is correct, so that we make sure that we're not missing any address changes anymore.
Okay, sounds good.
Any questions for Allison?
Whiny
Dr.
Nazi
Johnson,
babies.
there is a lot to unpack here, and I think
Yeah, isn't there?
in my
No,
mind, I
not
have a lot of
really.
questions left, and
There's really not a
I
lot.
would like to see the investigative notes that Mr. Gasaway has. Not today, but I would like to see. I have some real questions about some of these voters that I just can't answer
Oh
in my
my
mind
God.
today.
These
And
people
so I would
are
like to
incredible.
continue this case. Once again, sorry, but I just feel like there's more answer. That's right. No, you don't need to come back.
Can I make a comment about Miss Akers?
Yes.
Okay, so Miss Akers, when she changed her address, it was to an address that she planned on building. I think they had done some kind of, already had them grading the land or something like that, but she was living with her mother and intended on building the house there. So at that time, that was in the correct precinct or district. And when she, even with her living in Banks County, she would have still voted in Mr. Gasaway's district, because that whole county was his district.
Sorry.
No, I think I have a problem with that. I'd like to know more about that.
Why?
And so in my mind, I just,
Why?
I think that there's more answer or
Where's
more
she
questions
supposed
to
to
be answered
vote?
for myself. That can't be answered
Are
today
you saying she has
necessarily. I'd
nowhere to
love see
vote?
the
Because you
investigative
would
notes.
challenge her vote in the new place
Yes.
too, because
One
there's no
point.
domicile.
She said that we knew about the districting errors before the
Oh my
election. She
God.
said that. It's one of the first
Stop
things that came out of
that.
her mouth.
Oh
to
my
y'all.
God.
That's absolutely false. Mr. Davis has testified
Oh my
to his
God.
extensive experience as
This
an
is
expert
making me
witness
sick
in
to my
these kind of
stomach.
cases across the state. But there's no way that I knew Katie Hartrick was not going to be able to vote for me on May of 2018 before the election. That is absolutely 100%
Yeah, I
false.
wouldn't have lost by
Or I would have taken
would've lost
action,
by one.
serious action.
Out of
Katie
her
Hartrick
mouth.
and dozens of others of my supporters were disenfranchised on May of 2018.
dozens?
And I had no idea that was going to happen until it happened. And the
let's not go
insinuation that
crazy.
I did, I take big time exception to.
I'm sure you do.
Thank you.
I
I got
know.
it.
Well, fuck your feelings. Sit
The-
down.
Unless there's additional questions from the board, the chair
Whoa,
will
he disappeared.
entertain a motion if the motion is to continue this
I
case.
made him disappear.
Dr. Johnson has moved to
What
continue this case. Is there a
insinuation
second?
did he do?
All those in favor of continuing this case,
That
signify by saying
everybody
aye.
goes to jail.
Aye.
Aye. Is Rick voting?
Laurel's like, you know what? I'm going to
Motion
start my
carries 4-0.
martinis
We'll
now.
continue this case for, thank you, Miss Ellison.
Thank you.
Yeah, fuck off, everybody. That's what I'd say.
We're
Hey,
gonna go
y'all,
off script
go
once
fuck
again.
yourselves.
I know y'all love that.
Oh my God.
The chair has to leave
Oh.
at some point coming up soon. And so we're going to move a couple things up on the agenda to hear it real quick.
All right.
We
I
had
have
a
to get
report on the
going
Fulton
soon,
County
but I
monitoring
wanna
team. I'm
see
going
as
to do
much
that
as
one
I can
first.
of this. And then I'm
And
going to
so
come
last,
back this afternoon,
Monday,
possibly,
Dr. Johnson and I
to
met
go
with
over and
Chairwoman
listen to
Sherry
the
Allen,
entire Supreme
who's chairwoman
Court
of Fulton County,
on
and had a
ghost
meeting
guns.
concerning the monitoring team. And it lasted approximately 2.5 hours. And we discussed a number of things concerning the monitoring team. And Dr. Johnson made a proposal to Chairwoman Allen that the monitoring team be expanded. And the expansion would be 2 members selected by each member of this board to be added to the monitoring team. Dr. Johnson then quizzed the board as to who they would like to select, and 8 members were come up with for the addition. On Tuesday evening, Dr. Johnson sent that list of additional proposed members to Chairwoman Allen. And my understanding is that no action has been taken on that as of yet. Chairwoman Allen indicated that any additions or deletions to the team or any issues relating to the monitoring team would have to be voted on by the Board of Commissioners for Fulton County. And the Board of Commissioners were meeting on
stick your nose out of it
last Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock. It did not, my understanding is it did not come up at that meeting, or there was no action taken by the Board of Commissioners at that meeting pertaining to the monitoring team. This morning, I was alerted to a legal action taken by Fulton County that where a declaratory judgment was asked for relating to the monitoring team. I have not read that the legal documents with that
Neither
yet.
have I.
I will supply it to the board my first opportunity. So I don't know legally exactly what they're asking for, what that means. But there was a documents apparently that were filed this morning and should have been stamped this morning by Fulton County relating to the monitoring team.
Wow.
So that is as much as I know.
I don't
If
know
you'd
either.
like to add to that, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you. I don't know anymore, but I take that as a rejection of the additional members that were appointed by the state election board to Fulton County's own monitor team with Mr. Ryan Germany. Just to refresh everyone here, this monitor team came about on May 7th with hearing case SEB 2023-025, a complaint by Mr. Rossi and Moncla. The case involved 4 complaints. The first complaint dealt with double counting of ballots and votes during the recount, the final and official count of an election contest. The second complaint involved 17,852 missing ballot images from the recount. The third complaint involved possible improper hiring of a Mr. Messias, a consultant from the elections group. And the fourth complaint involved inadequate documentation of 10 scanners allegedly used during early voting without adequate documentation of their actual use and the thousands of 20,000 votes that were attributed to those scanners.
Was she holding
Mr.
is
Lindsay,
the
a
back of her
former board
hand
member
okay?
here, made a motion based on a pre-meeting agreement with Fulton County board chair and lawyer
hell's
to
going
issue a
on?
letter
Has
of
she got a
reprimand
flesh-eating
and
disease on
implement
the
a
back of her
monitor team
palm
for the
or
upcoming
hand?
election.
Hold on, I gotta
The
hold
monitor
on.
team would be agreed upon by the state
Hold on.
election board, the Secretary of State, and Fulton County, and must be decided by the June 9th meeting. The motion was passed 2-1, and agreement was made.
And it's
that,
not the microphone.
Was not kept. At the June 9th meeting, no agreement had been made for the monitor
Member
team.
Johnson, it's July 9th.
Sorry, July 9th. The
show us the
Fulton
back of your
County is
hand, the
not
mark
in
of the devil.
compliance with that decision of May 7th.
It's a
The State
Beelzebub,
Election
I
Board
tell
has
you.
not approved the Ryan Germany monitor team.
Pecan Pie fought
because
back.
of multiple reasons, but a presumed conflict of interest. Fulton County is not in compliance with the Ed Lindsay motion that was passed. The letter of reprimand cited failure to comply with recount procedures. The complaint concerning early voting tabulators with missing documentation was not addressed. The complaint regarding double counting of ballots and votes was not addressed. Incomplete review of Exhibit 11 failed to explain the 17,852 missing ballot images.
Is she wearing taffeta?
The complaint
Is that
regarding Mr.
teal
Messias,
taffeta?
whom Fulton County attorney hired along with the
Or
elections
organza
group
or something?
to
What the
outsource
hell's
the
going on with
administration
that
of
Eileen
election was
Fisher?
not addressed. State Election Board
Also
reached
this
out to
lady,
Fulton
sex is
County
only for
multiple
procreation,
times
AKA
to attempting
what's an
to
orgasm?
establish an acceptable monitor team. Fulton County has failed to comply with that agreed decision of May 7th. Failure to comply with this State Election Board.
She's younger than me, by the way. I mean,
requires great further investigation be considered.
Oh my God.
Fulton County has additionally had a number of cases of violations in the past couple of years, past several elections. That appear to be recurrent
this woman.
difficulties
Show
with
us your
election
hand.
conduct.
Come on, mark of the devil.
OCGA
Janice Johnston.
21-2,
JJ for
33.1
short.
states that the SEB is vested with the power
She
to
likes burgundy leather.
issue orders to proceed with other proceedings and investigation. I would like to make a motion to subpoena from the clerk of the court additional documents. I would like to subpoena consolidated return sheets,
big shirt,
opening and closing
Some
scanner
leggings.
tapes, daily recap,
Live, laugh, love on her
advance in-person
wall.
voting from
Sorry,
poll
not
and
sorry.
place scanners.
If you have that on your
Poll pad
wall, take
recap
it down right
sheets,
now.
Electronic
Right now,
files,
right now.
electronic
Just
files
go
of
to your
ballot
wall
images,
and
log
take it down.
files,
If
and
you have any Winnie
tabulation
the Pooh
files,
wear or any
the numbered voter
character
list,
on
the
your shirt
absentee list of voters,
that is a
the
cartoon,
absentee ballot
burn
oath
it.
envelopes, and security verification forms.
It's not
And one
eczema. That's
final
not eczema.
request
Okay,
is the
I
chain
have
of custody
eczema
forms
from
the poll manager and
arthritis. That's not
technician.
eczema. That's a wound. That's a gaping wound. You know, pecan pie mix the insides that
Dr.
can
Jan,
get
are you
real hot.
open to
That can get real hot.
adding to
Making it
your
caramel, it's
motion that
hot.
we have someone from Fulton County come before us at our next meeting, which was hopefully would be before
that's not
the
eczema.
November election, so they can explain to us why they repeatedly
That's,
ignore
That's a
this
bite from a
request.
poltergeist.
I would
That's what
be
that
open to adding to the motion a subpoena for
That's a frisky
Fulton County to
multipoo.
appear at the next
That's what
meeting.
that is.
Members, all the other comments.
Or multi-poo.
The record that while these investigations may not have been concluded
Right. So she's on
to
drugs.
the satisfaction
No, I'm
of
kidding.
Dr.
Yeah,
Johnston,
it probably is a subdural
this board
hematoma from an
nonetheless
IV.
voted
That's from
in
her
favor
adrenochrome
of sending a
injections.
letter of
No, I'm just
reprimand
kidding.
because the majority of the board at the time determined that the investigation was adequate and that the responses
Touched a hot-
provided by the investigators and by Fulton County answered the questions to our satisfaction. So let's make it clear that this is a closed case
Oh, but I don't think
under
that's clear.
the law as determined by the Attorney General's office.
I would have to disagree with my fellow board
Whoops.
member that there was
Well,
not a
nobody
motion
cares.
to agree that this was a closed case. There has not been a vote on the decision of whether this is a closed case. And this was simply a part of the investigation
She's like,
and a decision made
why
based
am I the only
on
sane
that
person on this panel?
conditional agreement to proceed with the letter of reprimand and an agreed upon monitor team which is now a failed to comply with agreement.
Says you. Okay.
Much as I hate to disagree with you, Dr. Johnston, it was very clear from the transcript that the monitoring team was a voluntary step taken by all three. And that we adjudicated with a case on the basis that all three parties would continue in good faith, but also that was not a condition. It was this and. It's been made very clear by the Attorney General's office that they consider that the case is adjudicated. We have no legal standing to force a monitoring team. The agreement of the Secretary of State's office to the team members was also part of that gentleman's agreement. And that seems to have been completely disregarded at this point.
By that, but
because I have heard nothing suggesting that the Secretary of State's office has agreed to your proposals as well. So it's only the bilateral it's not even bilateral, it's one way. Our insistence that Fulton accept what we say, that is the only thing that you are trying to have enforced.
They don't even go to their school.
Well, it was clear when Mr. Lindsay spoke at the May 7th meeting that the letter and the mutual required agreement to be agreed upon by July 9th was part and parcel of what deal had been made regarding the case. And they have not complied with that. They have failed to comply with the agreement of this particular case in the investigation.
Working together doesn't mean you have to take what I say and nothing else will do. And that seems to me that's what we're trying to force the county to accept people that they don't find acceptable, that frankly I don't find acceptable, and the Secretary of State's office doesn't find acceptable.
Well, quite frankly, the state election board does not find the Ryan Germany team acceptable. I am still
That's the
getting
general counsel for the Secretary of
late
State.
last night opposing the Ryan Germany monitor team. Fulton County.
That works for the Secretary of
they can
State.
Proceed on with whatever monitor team they want, but make no bones about it. This state election board will not support that team and will
it might just be a birthmark. Now that I look at it, it might just be a birthmark.
Valid when they present them.
I'd have to know I just hadn't seen it before.
You have every right to.
Oh no, she
reject the
definitely has a
findings of the
bandage
team,
on it.
But we do not have the right to force Fulton County to accept different people.
Those old ladies.
If I may,
Member King.
I would like to read the transcript from what exactly Member Lindsay said. So it says here, this is from that meeting, the May 7th meeting. What he said was correct. Then he said, and if I may, as a part of that, let the board know that should an agreement not be reached as to a monitor in July, that I will come back with a motion to reconsider and send it to the Attorney General. So that's a little bit of an emphasis for all of us to reach somebody, reach an agreeable monitor by July. That did not happen. Therefore, Fulton County is out of order.
Of who? They don't report to you.
So I feel like what Member Johnson is asking is reasonable. I mean, how many times are we going to allow them to circumvent the agreement in order to get what they want when they are the ones who put themselves in this position? Because it was left to their discretion.
Because it was left to their discretion.
That was the transcript.
Do you have a comment about the transcript itself? Okay.
What a mess these people are.
This is a ground that's been plowed many times already.
Oh, wine box with a drip.
In late June, early July, I don't remember the exact dates, Fulton County was presented with two different proposals for monitoring teams. one presented
Mine's
by
Peter Pan.
Ryan Germany team, one presented
That's
by
the mark
Dr.
on the back of
Johnson
my hand.
and,
There's Peter Pan.
sorry, Eric Christensen was the
and
lead
then
on that team, I
Wendy
guess.
and the other two. I don't remember. Peter and John.
This
I don't know
board
which
had
one's
both
which.
those
I can't
proposals.
remember.
Fulton
But
County had
anyway,
both those
whoop,
proposals.
they
The
fly
Secretary of
up my
State had
hand.
both
That,
those
that thing
proposals.
hurt like a motherfucker. Let me tell
Fulton
you right
County,
now.
on a vote on July the 11th, voted to accept the Ryan Germany team. The Secretary of State voted to accept the Ryan Germany team. This board had a meeting on July the 9th and took no action. This board tried to meet on July the 10th, but was unable to meet. This board attempted to meet on July the 12th and took no action. This board met on July the 30th and took no action. This board met on August the 9th and took no action. August 6th and August 7th, I'm sorry, not August 9th. This board met again on August the 19th, I believe, and took no action. This board met again on September the 20th and took no action, September 23rd and took no action.
It's fun.
So my question is, who has failed to respond here? Fulton County has voted, the Secretary of State has voted. This board has not had an up or down vote yet on which team. And the alternative team has been, the members have changed a couple of times. So you say Fulton County hadn't acted. Fulton County, and I'm not supporting Fulton County, I'm just saying that they voted on a team. The Secretary of State voted on a team. This board has not voted, has yet to vote on a team.
Well, first of all, the agreement said that that there had to be an agreement by July. Telling me that they met in July and made their own agreement does not support these actions. That's not what they were supposed to do. That's number one. Number two, in all of those meetings, you, Mr. Chairman, you could have brought it to the board as well. You could have made it a subject as well. July 9th was my first meeting. So clearly I wasn't going to bring it to the table. That being said, what exactly were we supposed to do other than what we've been doing? Now, at this point, we are now at the point where we have to subpoena and possibly take additional actions. But in an attempt to try to work with a county who refuses to work with us, we were giving them ample opportunity to correct their mistake, and they refused to do it. Here we are again asking them for a response on the list that we provided them. And instead, they're filing some weird lawsuit that they feel is necessary to avoid us. Once again, they refuse to respond to us. I don't even get an explanation as to why they have an issue with the list that we provided them. So at some point, as I stated before, we have to stop allowing them to find workarounds on an agreement that was put in place because of issues and errors that they made.
Here's what I know. We're going to stop her mid-rant. I have to go run some errands for my darlingest Bobo, with my darlingest Bobo. And so I'll be back later. And what we can do is maybe listen to the end of this, and then we can hear the Supreme Court argument. Plus, we do have a couple things to read, so we'll see how much time I'm able to carve out of this afternoon. So look for a setting thing, and but it'll definitely be after like 12 p.m. or maybe after 1, so and probably early evening for the East Coasters. Okie dokie, artichokes. All right, see you later. Oh my gosh, it's a cliffhanger. Whoa, what will happen? Whoa. Thanks for coming. I sure appreciate it. And I will definitely